78 on the calendar in the matter of Cabanero versus Taru.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Cabanero, Miss Taru was formerly your girlfriend.
Yes.
You have a child together.
Correct.
How old is that child?
7 years old.
A little girl.
Yes.
And you have an order of visitation with the child.
Yes.
You are currently married, I assume, to this lady.
Yes.
And you have 1 or 2 children?
I have 2 children and 1 on the way.
According to your complaint, during a scheduled visitation, you noticed that your daughter had a recurrence of a severe eczema problem that she suffers from.
Yes.
You tried to contact her mother. Her mother had turned off her cell phone. So you contacted the child's grandmother,
Correct.
Miss Taru's mother, and you told her that you were planning on taking the child to the doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you went to work.
That's correct.
Miss Taru became upset that you planned to take the child to the doctor. She came to your home when your wife was at home, and according to you, broke your security door.
Yes.
Miss Taru said you owe her over $4,000 in child support, so what are you complaining about?
The child support's getting taken out of my check. My check's getting garnished every week.
What is the child support order that you have for your daughter?
It's, I believe it's 400 something a month.
How much is this child support order?
$214.
$214 a month.
Correct. He does have another child, is the reason that they take more than just my amount out. He has another child with a mother that also garnishes wages out of his check.
Is that right?
Yes.
You got a lot of children, Mr. Cabanero. You must be very rich.
With children, yeah.
Those are your riches, sir. But sometimes you have to think with this. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now you can stand up. Your name is Mrs. Cabanero, and you tell me, Mrs. Cabanero, what happened when Miss Taru came to your house?
Lena made arrangements with my mother-in-law for the daughter to come over for the weekend on February 11th. And after dinner, I decided to give her a bath. When I got her ready for her bath, I saw that she had whelps on her from her eczema, and she had sores on her arms, all over her chest, thighs, and both eyes, and it was fully all over her body. And when I did give her a lukewarm bath, she did cry that it did hurt her skin.
How long has your daughter suffered from eczema?
Since she was born, Your Honor. Since she was 6 days old.
When was the last time prior to February 11th that the child had seen a physician?
On January 31st.
When had it become so exacerbated to cause concern to the police officer who came and saw the child?
It's always been that way, Your Honor. I have a letter from her doctor.
I'd like to see the letter from
Yes.
her doctor.
I got pictures of it also.
I'd like to see the photograph.
Can I mention that it's hereditary, and my sister also suffers the severe disease as well and has the same exact symptoms, and she's 24 years old, Your Honor.
And that was just recent pictures.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
This letter from the doctor, which you furnished me,
Correct.
says that you told the doctor that Alexa, that's your daughter,
Correct.
was found with her stepsister involved in sexual play.
Correct.
How old is that child?
At that time, she was 2 years old.
And how old was your daughter?
I want to say 5.
So they're baby playing.
Correct.
All right. What I need, because he says that he couldn't get this eczema under control, so he sent you to a dermatologist.
Yes.
Doctor, I'd like to see a report is when you last took the child to see Dr.
I don't have a statement.
Well,
with
when
me.
prior to February 11th had the child seen Dr.
The beginning of January?
This is too serious a condition, madam, to wait 6 weeks.
No, Your Honor, I have several medications that my daughter is on that I use on a typical basis.
Did the police officer who responded that day tell you better take this child immediately to the doctor?
No, she suggested that I take her to the doctor, or she would have, well, yes, actually, yes, you're right, correct. Or that she would call an ambulance and have
You're
her
absolutely right, because the police officer who responded that day viewed this situation as critical enough to say, unless you guarantee me that you're going to take the child immediately to the
She would not
doctor,
release it.
she's taking the child by ambulance to the hospital.
Correct.
So when did you take the child to the
That same day.
dermatologist?
Oh, I didn't take her to the dermatologist, Your Honor. I took her to the regular doctor because it was a Saturday.
When did you take her to the dermatologist?
She hasn't been, Your Honor.
That's neglect.
I have no medical coverage right now, Your Honor.
I don't care what you have to do to get enough money to take your child to the dermatologist. Your doctor, in a letter that you gave me, madam, from your doctor, the doctor says, this problem is so serious and so intractable that I cannot treat the child.
Right.
So I referred her to a dermatologist, which you didn't take her to.
He also doesn't provide medical coverage for my daughter, Your Honor.
What
And he had
difference
ordered-
does that make? He said,
Because we're
listen
not-
to me very carefully. I read your answer. Your answer said that you got angry,
Correct.
that he was going to take the child to the doctor.
Correct.
So you went over to pick her up.
I did.
And it would seem to me that on February 11th, since you haven't had the child to the dermatologist since the beginning of January because you have no medical coverage, that if the child's father was prepared to take her to a doctor to look into this situation that was unremitting while in your care, you wouldn't get angry. You would say, thank you.
No.
Thank you. Not She's mine and I'll take care of him.
Your Honor,
Listen to me! That's what a mother does. A mother does not say, I'm not going to let him because that's my job and he has no right to do that. Mother says, if I don't have medical coverage and my husband doesn't provide enough for me to take the child to the dermatologist, if the child's father's going to do that, let him. That's great just as long as the child gets cared for. So, the fact that you went over there and made a fuss over there that day is stupid.
I did take my daughter to the doctor that day. I could not take her to dermatology that day.
The doctor says he can't help her. This is the letter you gave me. The doctor says I cannot help her. That was a Saturday. Did you take the child to the dermatologist Monday?
No, because my coverage ended.
Is she not following me?
I could not.
Is she not following me?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I asked about the door.
This getting to the door.
Get there faster. I'm losing patience with the door when I'm looking at it behind like this. I'm losing patience with everybody.
And later today,
she got in her car, whipped out her driveway, and drove off real fast. And it was an older dude. He kicked her car.
Nasty.
Nice little kick.
For no reason. Just stupid.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alex Caballero says his child's mother, Lena Taru, damaged his front door by kicking it. Alex also says Lena is neglecting their daughter.
You got bigger problems than a door. I don't know what you're here wasting your time for with a door for $300 that got broken. I would save my energy and my time off from work by pursuing, if you feel as if you can provide the child with a better situation, with pursuing either more liberal rights with regard to this child's medical care or custody of this child if you feel as if you can provide for the child so that a child doesn't have to have these kind of wilts because these two people can't provide the child with appropriate medical care. Do you understand?
He now provides medical coverage for us, Your Honor.
It's not good enough. I guarantee you that if he was walking around with this on his behind, or you would have gotten yourself to a doctor and had it taken care of. Guaranteed.
On his knee.
And the fact that this child is 7 years old and has no voice, and you have to be this child's voice, is to me an abomination that you would allow the child to walk around for 6 weeks like this. Now, you want to talk about your door?
Yeah?
How did the door get broken?
When she, after that incident, I had a phone conversation with her stating that she was going to come over and pick up the daughter. I stated to her that her daughter needed to see a physician that day, and then she continued to call me names over the phone, so I hung up on her.
I asked about the door.
This getting to the door.
Get there faster. I'm losing patience with the door when I'm looking at it behind like this. I'm losing patience with everybody.
She came to the house, continued to ring the doorbell. I answered the front door, and we did have a security screen door. She asked for her daughter. I told her no. And she continued to say, I'm going to kick you, I'm going to kill you. As soon as you come out of here, I'm going to get you. And I told her, if she don't get off my property right now, I'm going to call the sheriffs. And as soon as I said that, she started to pull and bang and yank on the security screen door.
You have a picture of the door?
I also have a witness, that my neighbor, that also seen all of it.
Is the witness here?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let me see. Where's the witness?
He's in the back.
Okay, let's bring out the witness, please.
Do you swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes.
State your name for the record, please.
Travis Smith.
Mr. Smith, are you a neighbor of these people?
Yes, I am.
All right, I'm going to direct your attention to the 12th of February of 2005. Were you home on that day?
Yes, I was.
Did you witness an altercation between this defendant and the plaintiff's wife?
Yes.
Would you tell me what you observed, please?
I heard a bunch of yelling and screaming.
What did you hear?
I heard, open the door, give me my kid, something to that effect. A lot of profanity.
By whom?
Defendant. At the time, I didn't realize it was actually her that was screaming the profanity. I thought it was the people down the street that were fighting. I came outside, and when I noticed that it was actually coming across the street, I approached her, just trying to figure out what was going on.
What did you say to her?
Basically, I asked, what's going on? Because I'm new to the neighborhood. I want, I'm trying to learn my neighbors. And
okay, she said, what's going on? And she said,
oh, I'm trying to get my baby. They have my baby, and she won't let me have her. She goes, I have the cops on the way, and I walked her out onto the sidewalk. And I said, well, if the police are on their way, then why don't you stand here, calm down, let the police do their job.
okay. Is that all you saw?
Pretty much.
Can I mention my side of what he said?
Go ahead.
When he came outside, he asked me, is that Alexis and Alicia fighting again? And I said, no, it's me screaming at her to give me my daughter.
Is that what you said?
No, I didn't even know her name at the time. I didn't even know he had another daughter. That's how new of the street I was.
He might have said Alex and his wife
I said,
fighting
are they
again.
fighting again? I thought it was people down the street.
He had said that they were fighting last weekend, the weekend prior to the February
right?
12th.
No.
She was so upset she doesn't know.
Well,
The only thing she wasn't upset about, the only thing Miss Taru wasn't upset about was this.
That's...
You owe him the money for the door, madam. $322. Judgment for the plaintiff in that amount. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just want to get my daughter taken care of, and I just want her to take responsibility for the actions she did.
I think she's jealous, and because that was her first love, and I came in between. I told her I'd kill her. She didn't give me my daughter. That's right, I did.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lang versus Lewis Finch. Step forward, please.
Legal assistant Mary Lang is suing 16-year-old Timothy Finch Jr. and his mother, Octavia Lewis, for the cost to fix her car. Mary says Timothy dented the vehicle by kicking it.
Ms. Lang, it is your claim that this young man dented your car.
That is correct.
By kicking it?
Yes.
Mr. Finch says that it was not him.
Okay.
When did it happen and where?
On February 3rd of this year, I was getting into my car. The defendants and some other kids were across the street, and they were throwing snowballs at me. I then got it.
How many kids?
There's a bus stop there, and the kids, there's a high school down the street, and the kids stand at that bus stop.
So how many
About
kids?
20.
All right.
I then got into my car, and I backed up, and I stopped at that stop sign where the bus stop is. And the defendant was standing at the bus stop, but he was standing out in the road, not exactly on the sidewalk.
What specifically about the defendant caused you to remember him?
He had a camouflage jacket on.
Anyone other than the defendant wearing a camouflage jacket?
No, Your Honor.
Just one?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mary Lang claims 16-year-old Timothy Finch Jr. vandalized her car by kicking it. Timothy says Mary's got the wrong guy.
Okay, tell me exactly what you saw.
Well, I had to go a little slow because I was watching out for these kids that were in the road, and there was another car coming this way, and I was making a right-hand turn. So I was looking to make sure that I wasn't hitting these kids or whatever, and I saw the defendant kick my car in the passenger side mirror.
What did you do?
I then pulled up to see if there was any damage, and there was a nice dent in my car. And I went back to my apartment, and I called 911. My apartment is right across the street from the bus stop.
Okay. I want to hear what Mr. Finch has to say.
I had detention in school, and I got into a problem earlier in the week in school, so they wasn't going to let me out the building until they knew the bus was exactly coming. So when I left out the school, I was walking down the street, and all you heard was like, oh, like they was yelling, like we thought it was a fight or something. So we walked down there, and then it was a Caucasian, like a heavyset boy was across the street, and other kids was running at him, tackling them, jumping on them, and then they was throwing snowballs at her also. And then they was kept on throwing them, so she went in her doorway, she called the cops. And then I guess the cops ain't come, so she got in her car. She whipped out her driveway, and then she drove off real fast and turned the corner. I was standing next to her, and then there was a whole lot of other people in front of me. And then when she turned, it was an older dude that was out there that ain't go to school. He kicked her car. She stopped, and when she got her car, she said, "You're gonna pay for this damage at my car." She was looking at the dude right in his face when she said it, and then she bagged up, and then she went in her driveway, and then she got back in the doorway.
What did this dude look like?
He was dark-skinned. He had a camouflage coat on. He had a black hoodie, and he had a braids on, but he had a hat on.
Had you ever seen him before?
I seen him. He come to our school mostly every day. He don't go to our school. He just come up there mostly every day.
What does he do at your school if he doesn't go to school there?
He just come up there every day. He just be out there talking to everybody.
Every day?
Every day.
So you've seen him 50 times?
Yes.
And no question that you could identify him?
Yes.
Have a police report?
I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it. Now, they took you off the bus, is that right?
Yes.
Did this older guy also get on the bus?
No, once she called the cops, him and the other two dudes that was with him, they went off back towards, towards Granite. That's the street back that way.
Now, when the police took you off the bus, did you tell the police at that time that you could identify the true perpetrator because he came to your school every day and you know who he is? Did you tell that to them?
No, I didn't.
Well, you just told me, and it would seem to me logical, Mr. Finch, that if you had not committed this crime and the police took you off the bus, you would have said, listen, it was this older dude who comes to the school every day, who I know, because I've seen him at least 50 times. I can point him out to you. I would tell that to the police like that. This young lady, step up, whose name is?
LaToya.
That LaToya, who was standing right next to you, right? That's what you said?
Yes.
You saw exactly what he saw, right?
Yes.
You were waiting for him because he got detention?
No, I was also in detention.
Everybody's in detention. Now, after he got pulled off the bus, were you on the bus with him?
Yes.
Did you get off the bus?
Yes.
Did you tell the police that it wasn't him, it was this other guy? You told me about this other guy who did it.
Yes, I told them when they were on the bus.
You told that to the police?
When they were on the bus, we pointed to people, the two boys that actually did it to her car, but they didn't take them. They took him and another boy.
Are you telling me that you told the police that it was boys on the bus who caused the dent to her car?
Yes.
Sit down. He says they had walked away already. Okay. Can I see pictures of the car, please? Nasty.
Nice little kick.
For no reason. Just being stupid. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. Number 574 on the calendar in the matter of Sherry versus Shearer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Sherry, the defendant was your boyfriend and you lived together for a period of time. It is your claim that he moved out before a lease that you had both signed was up. You want him to pay his half of the rent for the duration of the lease.
Yes.
You want him to pay for certain personal property that he took, a ring of yours, that he broke your son's PlayStation. You want him to pay for that.
Yes.
In general, you're just not happy with him.
Right.
Mr. Sciarra says that he couldn't live with you, that made living there unbearable for him. It got to be violent. And he did, in fact, take a ring that I think belongs to you. But he said he took it because you took it off after an argument, and he said you didn't want it anymore, so he took it. As far as the PlayStation is concerned, Mr. Sciarra says that he broke that by accident, but you stepped on his model plane on purpose, and it was much more important and had sentimental value to him, and the PlayStation didn't have sentimental value to you, so you're even. Sounds like a very mature relationship. How old is your son?
6.
Not Mr. Sciarra's child.
Amen.
How long have you and Mr. Sciarra been an item?
It would be a year in April.
When did you move in together?
We moved in together in New York for the first time at the end of last year.
So you knew him a couple of weeks before you moved in together?
Yes. And we decided to move down to North Carolina in November of 2004.
And that's when you signed the lease?
Yes.
What was your arrangement with regard to the rent?
We were both responsible for half of everything.
Is that the arrangement?
We didn't have any arrangement, basically. We had both signed the lease that we both agreed to, but as far as who was going to pay for what, there was nothing, we didn't have any type of agreement, basically.
Well, how was the rent paid when you were living in New York?
She paid the rent, but I gave her money every week.
How did you do that?
At the end of the week when I got paid, I just gave her cash.
How much cash did you give her?
Between $100 and $200 a week.
Is that right?
Yes.
And is that what happened when you moved down in November?
No. When we moved down in November, we took our money, we put it together, and we got into the house. We didn't...
Okay, just a second. So you each had a savings account?
No, we were both working.
So you had a checking account, and each of you put your money in a
No, we
pot?
had cash.
Well, what do you do for a living?
I'm an administrative assistant for a flooring company.
So you get paid by check?
Yes.
And you?
I'm in construction.
You get paid by check as well?
No, I get paid in cash.
What kind of construction are you in, sir?
General contracting, interior finishing work.
You do file tax returns, don't you?
Yes.
What happened when you moved out, sir, and what date was that?
I'm not sure exactly what the date was.
Maybe you know.
February 18th.
So you lived there November, December,
I'm
January.
sorry, we got into a fight on the 18th. He moved out on the 20th.
So you lived there for 3 months?
Yes.
And how was the money handled from November until February?
In November, we were staying at my uncle's house. We stayed there until February. We signed the lease in February.
Oh, so you were only there for a couple of weeks?
Yes.
Well, what happened on February 18th?
We got into an argument. I had gotten a phone call from an old friend who I hadn't talked to in a long time. Alexander got very mad, very angry. He was slamming doors. I went in to talk to him. He didn't want to talk to me. We just started arguing about everything, and he started running through the house and breaking things.
Did you break anything?
Yes, I did.
What did you break?
He was running through the house. He went in my son's room, and he was looking for something that he couldn't find. He was destroying the room.
What was he looking for?
I don't know.
So what did you do?
So I told him if he did not stop destroying my son's room, I was going to go and break his plane because he was destroying the room.
What do you mean destroying the room? Explain that to me.
Ripping things apart, ripping things out of the closet, moving everything around.
But not breaking anything?
No.
He didn't break anything?
No.
So you told him if he didn't stop acting a little bit crazy, you were going to break something?
Yes.
And what did you choose to break?
His airplane.
Now, why did you choose to break his airplane?
Because it's the only thing he cares about.
Why is it the only thing he cares about?
He's infatuated with helicopters and airplanes.
Who made it?
I guess he did.
Is that right?
Yes.
How big was it?
It had a wingspan of 53 inches.
So that's a pretty big plane. Where was it kept?
I'd keep it in the house, but she didn't want me keeping it in the house. She said it had to stay in the garage, so that's where it was.
How did you break it?
I stepped on it.
And you stepped on it because it's the only thing he cared about?
Yes.
Nice. And 2 days later, he moved out?
Yes.
Doesn't sound to me as if you were the kind of lady I'd like to live with.
He's not the easiest person to live with either.
That's fine. Then he should move out.
I understand that, but we moved into the place, we signed a lease, we were both responsible. The only reason we moved to North Carolina was so that we could be together. I didn't even want to move down there.
Listen, when you have an argument, if what you did was you chose to destroy the only thing that he values, which is what you told me. I chose to go in and to destroy the only thing that Mr. Sciarra cares about. You chose to destroy?
Your Honor, he was destroying my son's room.
No, he wasn't. He was pulling things apart.
No, he was
just
ripping
listen to
the
me.
room apart.
Listen to me. I asked you specifically. I said, did he break anything? He said no. But I told him to stop because he was acting nutty. And if he didn't, I was going to go and destroy the only thing that was valuable to him. So you did it. So you're living in the house. You're living by yourself. Sounds perfect to me. Did you sign off on the lease?
No, I haven't.
Well, I would if I were you, sir, because if she doesn't pay the rent, they're going to come after you.
Right.
What was the rent?
It was about $975 a month.
What was the what?
$925.
And what was your rent in New York?
$1,200.
Well, so if you could afford $1,200 in New York, you can afford $925 in Carolina. All right, so let's move on from the rent. Now you want You heard my answer, madam. You know, there are consequences to people's actions.
I understand
The consequence to your action, there is a consequence to your action.
I understand that if there are consequences to his action, I have a police report against him.
Listen to me very carefully. I don't care what you have. I'm taking evidence now. There is a consequence to your actions. If you choose to move out of this apartment, and if the landlord chooses to go against you and or the defendant for the rent, that's a whole different story. But what you want is you want him to pay half the rent while you're living there. And I'm telling you that I believe that he had not only the right, but in addition to having the right, he exercised good judgment in moving out when you chose during the course of an argument to destroy the only thing that you say he valued. And I'm saying before this escalated into violence, and violence would have been perpetrated in the presence of your 6-year-old son, he exercised good judgment in moving out, and you pay the rent. Now we're moving on to the PlayStation.
He did put his hands on me in front of my son. I have the pictures, I have the proof, the document, and everything.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Who caused the accident?
I caused the accident.
Then you pay for it.
I didn't do it deliberately. It was an accident.
I don't give a rat's behind whether you did it deliberately or in your sleep.
And later today,
I'm flying over the hill. She come hit me, knocked me into the ditch.
And you think he's responsible for that?
I don't think he should have been out blowing leaves off his driveway at 9 o'clock at night.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Allison Cherry says ex-boyfriend Alex Shearer owes for breaking a lease, breaking a PlayStation, and stealing a ring. Alex says he moved out after Allison smashed his model airplane.
You broke the PlayStation.
Yes.
You have to pay for that.
It was an accident. I didn't do it.
If it's an accident,
right,
Mr. Shearer, during the course of this whole thing, somebody has to pay for it.
Exactly. Yes.
Who caused the accident?
I caused the accident.
Then you pay for it.
She's not paying for my airplane.
She's stuck with the whole rent.
Because she decided to stay there, though. She could have left and...
I could not leave. They would not let me out of the lease.
Just a second. Just a second. Mr. Shearer, did you hear what I said, sir? You broke the kid's PlayStation. You're going to pay for it.
I didn't do it deliberately. It was an accident.
I don't give a rat's behind whether you did it deliberately or in your sleep. And if you had a counterclaim with regard to the airplane, I would entertain it. But you don't. How much was the PlayStation?
$150.
Now, where's the ring you took?
It's in New York.
What's it doing in New York?
I bought the ring for her because she had told me that she wanted it. She had always worn it. She likes her rings and always wears them at all times. The only time she ever takes them off is when she goes to sleep. When we were fighting, she took it off and she put it on the counter in the bathroom as if to say that she didn't want anything to do with me anymore. So as I was leaving, I decided that she didn't want it anymore, obviously, because she took it off. So if she didn't want it, I would take it.
Well, you can't do that, Mr. Shearer. Once you make a gift, she could do whatever she wants with it. She wants to take it, she wants to bury it in the backyard, put a tombstone over it. That's her prerogative. You understand?
Yes.
She wants to make that a symbol of the demise of your relationship. She can do that. It's not up to you to determine what you're going to do with a gift that you've given that you have no control over anymore.
Okay.
So, you have to return the ring to her. 5 days from today, she's to get it back. Clear?
Yes.
Perfect. Anything else we have to discuss?
Electric bills from when he was there and when we were staying at my uncle's house.
I'm not interested in that. You get your ring and your son's PlayStation. The other stuff is nonsense.
We were responsible for the electric bill at my uncle's and also in the new house. So he's not responsible for any of his bills?
He's not responsible for anything, madam, for the 2 weeks that he was living in the apartment.
What about the 3 months we were living at my uncle's house?
I'm not hearing it. Get over it. It's over. You get your ring back and he had no right to break your son's PlayStation. And you had no right to destroy his property.
And he had no right to take my phone, so I couldn't call anybody to come into the house, and he had no right to... All
right, the following is the judgment of the court. The plaintiff gets $150 for the PlayStation and her ring back in 5 days. Thank you very much. Have a happy life.
Why does that excuse you? Step out.
It had been building up and got out of hand, basically.
He should have had to pay for what he did. Instead, he gets to run home to daddy and do nothing.
She made it a point that I couldn't have any my ex-girlfriends calling me.
He was just jealous over anybody that talked to me.
We were both jealous people, and, you know, it just, one thing led to another, and it escalated to the point in which it did.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Petero versus Galasso. Step forward.
Shipper Terry Petero and his daughter, 17-year-old Melinda, are suing painter Angelo Galasso for damage to a Buick Skylark. Terry says Angelo's leaf blower ran into the vehicle while Melinda was driving it. Angelo is countersuing for damage to the leaf blower and pain and suffering.
Mr. Petero, you and your daughter live in the same neighborhood as Mr. Galasso, I assume?
No, actually, we don't, Your Honor. I live in Hillsborough. She was visiting her aunt at the time.
I see. So she wasn't near her home?
No.
It is your claim that your daughter was driving. She hit Mr. Galasso and his leaf blower. He was crossing the street.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want him to pay for the damage to your car?
Yes, ma'am.
Interesting. Mr. Galasso says that's sort of ridiculous. He was injured. His leaf blower was destroyed. He just thanked his lucky stars that he wasn't killed, which is why he didn't sue you and your daughter. But since you decided to sue him, he's got a counterclaim for the injuries he sustained and the cost of the leaf blower.
Yes, Your Honor.
On what date did this occur?
It was December 12th.
And what time of the evening was it?
It was 9 o'clock at night.
So you tell me what happened, Melinda.
I pulled out of my aunt's road. It was actually her road that I was coming off of. And I got on the road, started going, and I came up over this little dip, and I have pictures.
So you were on a hill?
Yes.
So you couldn't see the other side?
No.
What happened when you came over the other side?
I got hit by something. I had no clue what it was.
You got hit?
I got hit.
You got hit or you hit something?
It hit the side of my car. At the point, I had no clue what it was, you know.
You have a picture of your car?
Yes. I have a picture of the car and the road where it happened.
Good. Let me see. Is this the road you're talking about?
Yes.
You were traveling here, and so you had no view of what was coming across the road?
Yes.
And you could not see what was below you?
Yes.
And what was below you was a pedestrian crossing the road?
Yes.
Yes. So what happened?
I got hit by something. Like I said, I had no clue what it was at the time. It was 9 o'clock at night, dark.
How fast were you going?
I don't even think I was doing the speed limit by then.
Well, what's the speed limit?
It's 45.
So you think maybe you were doing 35 miles an hour?
Yeah, maybe.
You want to tell me what happened, Mr. Galasso?
Yes, I was out there blowing leaves, and I was just blowing the leaves, and all of a sudden she come flying over the hill, and she come hit me and knocked me into the ditch, and knocked my blower across the road, too. I got pictures of the road, where I landed.
Now, you saw Mr. Galasso being thrown across the road when you finally stopped your car?
I stopped, and I mean, I didn't see, you know, anything fly across the road.
Where did you see Mr. Galasso?
He was over on the other side of the road.
Was he on the ground?
Yes.
How do you think he got on the ground?
He was hit by the leaf blower that hit my car, which threw him across the road.
And you think he's responsible for that?
I don't think he should have been out blowing leaves off his driveway at 9 o'clock at night.
Is this what you encouraged, sir? You encouraged her to pursue this lawsuit?
Actually, it was my idea, Your Honor.
It was your idea. I wondered to it.
If you look at the car was set on the left side of the thing. He's saying he was blowing it off his driveway.
I don't care. Listen to me very carefully, sir. Because the state says that the speed limit is 45 miles an hour. If you choose to go around the speed limit into an area that you can't see, and you hit a pedestrian, which your daughter did, the pedestrian happened to be attached to a leaf blower. But bottom line, she hit a pedestrian because if she were going 5 miles an hour into an area that she couldn't see, she wouldn't have hit him. But she wasn't. She was going fast into an area where she had a blind spot, and that's her fault. Her fault. Not his fault. Her fault.
I'm just saying, he said he was blowing leaves in his driveway. If you look at the car, the damage that when he hit her, he was in the middle of the road. He could have seen her car coming over. He was trying to get across that road.
He saw her car coming over. Is that what you're saying to me? She couldn't see him, but he had a periscope. And he could see her coming over, and according to your daughter, and he had no right to be blowing leaves at 9 o'clock at night anyway. The apple don't fall far from the tree. You have no case against him. Now, but since you decided to pursue this matter, Mr. Galasso, who otherwise would not have pursued this matter against you, says he was out of work, he was injured, you ruined his leaf blower, all because she was going too fast to an area that she couldn't see. So, was the leaf blower destroyed, Mr. Galasso?
Yes, Your Honor. I have pictures of it.
I'd like to see them.
And I have the replacement and a little brochure on them.
What about you, Mr. Galasso? How do you feel?
I feel like she shouldn't have sued me. After she hit me.
You were willing to let it go?
Yes, I wasn't going to sue her.
Did you have to replace the leaf blower?
I haven't replaced it yet, but I have a replacement.
Does it still work?
It's totaled.
And what about your physical condition, Mr. Galasso?
The only thing I got out of it, I was blessed. I only got a little thing on my knee, just a little indentation where the blower hit it. And then my elbow was hurt, but it's better now.
Were you out of work?
Yes, I was out of work for about a week and a half.
What kind of work do you do?
I paint lines on the highway.
How much do you earn a week?
$800 a week.
You owe him $2,551. Judgment on the counterclaim. Your claim is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you. Thanks, Your Honor.
Step out. Out the back, this is case number 595 on the calendar in the matter of Gaskins versus Schutz. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Ms. Gaskins, this is your mom? Is that right? You have 2 children?
Yes, I do.
How old are they?
Brittany's 11 and Haley's 9.
How many years did your children live with your mother alone?
None.
Is that right?
No, it's not.
Well, you seem to indicate that your mother took the children at one point. I mean, you say in your petition that you kidnapped your children, which means that for a period of time the children lived with her.
She filed a protection order.
I asked you a very simple question. You say the children never lived with your mother without you being there. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I did say that.
Did the children ever live with you without your daughter being present?
Yes, they did.
For how long?
Probably for about 5 years of their life.
From when to when?
And that's not true. I would say Brittany was probably 6 months old till about the age of 5.
Where was your daughter?
She's lived with 4 or 5 different boyfriends on and off throughout the period of time. And left the children there.
Left the children where?
The children stayed at my house. And I've always lived there. That was my physical residence. I have proof of that.
All right. Your complaint, Ms. Gaskins, against your mother is twofold. First, that she has harassed you, and the nature of her harassment has been that she has called Child Protective Services complaining about your care of the children on I don't know how many occasions.
23 times.
And the second thing is that after you moved out of her house with your children, she refused to let you take property. So let's hear about what you perceive to be your mother's harassment by calling Child Protective Services.
You want to hear about it or you want to see it?
Well, I'll take a look at them first.
Okay. It all started December 7th is when she made the report. It's because she wanted to gain custody of my children.
December 7th of what?
2000.
Okay. Let me see that report. That's when it started.
And she also made my children lie and say that I duct taped it.
Who's Lionel?
It's my ex-husband.
Is he the father of these 2 children?
Yes, he is.
Do the children see their father?
Yeah, they do every other weekend.
Does he support them?
He pays $214.30 a month.
Who else supports them?
It's me and my fiance.
Do you work?
Do I work? No.
That's my question.
Yeah, I work.
For whom?
I work for MedPen.
What do you do for them?
I sell diabetic shoes, and I'm also a cosmetologist.
You weren't working at the time of this report, is that correct?
To pursue legal custody of the kid.
Legal custody of the children?
Mm-hmm.
Who had the children been living with?
I was living there, and she filled out a protection order. The police came and removed me from the house because she said I duct tape my kids.
Why would she say that?
Because she wants to gain custody of my children so she can obtain child support.
$216?
It was $450 at the time.
So what you're telling me is you lived with your mom, according to you, and your children, continuously until 2000. And in 2000, something happened with your mother so that she wanted to gain custody of the children after all that time to get your child support of $400 a month. So she made up a story about you abusing your kids in order to have the courts give her custody.
Yes.
That's pretty serious.
The girls recanted their story.
What?
The girls recanted their story. It's in that proof that I gave.
I see that the girls recanted their story, but they initially told their story about maltreatment by you. Okay. What was the next report that your mother made? This was 2001, so this was a year later. Now, you were living with your children alone at that time?
No, I wasn't living alone. I lived with my boyfriend.
But you weren't living at your mother's house?
No.
What was the new allegation in this petition?
I'd have to see it.
Here.
Kids complaining they weren't getting enough sleep at night because adults fighting, cigarette smoke burns the children's eyes and throat. It says adults are drug users and mom is mean to them. Anything she can.
Did you call in this report, by the way?
I don't know if I called that one particular.
Well, I'm talking about only this one.
I've called twice.
You called in the first one?
I don't know.
The first one had to do with the duct taping of the children?
No.
You did not call that one in.
I have proof right here where she had took a protection order against me and signed it and wrote the allegations out.
That doesn't mean that she called Child Protective Services. Did you or did you not call Child Protective Services about the duct tape incident?
No.
No. Okay. And you say you have proof that you did. Let me see it. Duct taping the children's mouth shut and hitting them. She doesn't say that she called Protective Services.
That's the protection order that she took out against me.
She doesn't say that she called Protective Services. She makes the same allegations, or some of them, that are made in this report, but she specifically says here that she herself did not see this, and nowhere did she say that she called Protective Services rather than a school official or a teacher or someone else the children reported to.
In the CPS report, it says my grandma made me say that or she wants to smack me with a wooden spoon.
Listen to me very carefully. The only question that I asked your mother was, did you call in this report? And she says she did not. And you said she's lying. She did, because she took out a protective order that says she called Protective Services. Well, it doesn't say that she called Protective Services, madam.
But it says that I duct taped my kids to a bedpost.
That is correct, but so did your children. And they didn't report it to your mother. They reported it to other people.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It says she duct taped the girls to the bed. They were screaming, so she duct taped their mouths.
You have to demonstrate to me that she placed that call.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Chrissy Gaskin says her mother, Connie Schutz, has harassed her by making over 20 calls to Child Protective Services. Connie claims on one occasion, Chrissy duct taped her children to a bedpost.
All right. You said you called Child Protective Services 2 times.
Right.
In what years did you call Protective Services?
I believe it was 98.
And I live there still.
Good. About what allegations?
Drinking in the house and not going to bed on time and being tired for school.
Well, why would you call Protective Services? You were living in the house with her.
No, that's when she left and she took the kids to the jail.
Both times were in 1998?
No, I only called CPS one time, and then I called the Board of Education.
When was that?
I believe the Board of Education was approximately, I think, 2002.
And why did you call the Board of Ed in 2002?
The girls weren't going to school.
How did you know that?
I do daycare, and some of the kids I babysat for were in the girls' class, and I couldn't see the girls because I've only assigned certain days and certain months to see them. So I always say, how's Brittany today, or how's Haley? I ask about them every day. And I said, just make sure you tell them that Grandma loves them, misses them. And they said, well, Connie, Brittany and Haley wasn't at school today. The next day, they weren't at school. And so as I asked the kids I've watched, they said they weren't at school again.
Gotcha. So that's when you called the Board of Ed.
Right.
Other than those times, have you ever called Child Protective Services about your daughter?
No.
Did you ever call anyone indicating that she was driving around with a suspended driver's license?
Yes.
Okay. Who did you call indicating that she was driving around with a suspended driver's license?
The Vienna Police Department.
When did you call the police department?
It was on 4/18.
What year?
Of 04.
Ms. Gaskins, were you in fact driving with a suspended license in April of 2004?
I did not know they were suspended.
That's not my question.
Yes, I was. I have a cassette tape of the 911 where she had called in.
She says she called in.
Yeah, but it's, if you just hear her, how she refers to me.
Go ahead.
Central Communications.
I'm trying to get hold of the Vienna Police Department. Do you know how to get hold of them?
What do you need?
Well, I have this girl that wants to harass me all the time, and she's driving on second offense suspended license, and she's harassing me all the time. And I know it's a known fact that she has no license, no insurance, and she's up here at the mall. So I needed an officer to talk to me so maybe they can catch her when she pulls out. We'll just see.
Where are you at?
I'm looking at her car at Grand Central Mall right now.
Okay, where are you at on the mall lot? The big line.
It also states in there that they were suspended since last Friday, and I wasn't living with her for a whole year.
Your driver's license was suspended for not taking care of previous citations.
Yeah,
what kind of
came to her house?
What kind of citations?
A speeding ticket.
Well, that's one citation.
Okay, and another speeding ticket.
So you had 2 speeding tickets.
Yeah.
Your license was suspended because you didn't pay the tickets or you didn't respond to them?
No, I didn't get the papers because she received the mail and didn't give me those, and then that's when she called the cops.
Did you do that?
No, not at all.
She wasn't speeding for you. She didn't keep her foot on the pedal, did she?
No, she wasn't. No.
That was your fault.
That was my fault.
Ms. Gaskins.
I have a ticket here you might want to look at, too.
Sure. You had a DUI?
Yes, I have. I lived with her at the time.
Well, this was in '98. You were living with Jake?
No, I was not. I was living at my mom's house until December 12th, 2000.
She never had her address from her mail changed. Her mail always came to my house no matter where she lived.
Why would I want my mail at her house?
And she moved in and out like 10 times.
Okay. So listen to me very carefully, Ms. Gaskins. I have your mother acknowledging that she called in 1998, Child Protective Services.
Yes.
This is when, according to your mother, you were living out of the home. I have your mother acknowledging that she called the Board of Education on or about 2002 because she believed that the children weren't going to school regularly. And she called the police department 41804 to advise them that you were driving on a suspended license. Do you have any follow-up on the report that you made to the Board of Education in 2002 about your children going to school?
My kids went to school. I have report cards.
No.
I have report my kids.
Listen to me very carefully. Okay. Do you have the children's report cards from 2002 that show their attendance?
The only report cards that I brought with me were ones from 04 to 05.
I need 2002. Your mother says the children weren't going to school. It was reported to her.
Does she have proof of that?
Listen to me.
I have all
very
this proof.
Carefully. She doesn't have to prove that it's true, madam. You have to demonstrate to me that she embarked on a course of conduct that was frivolous and harassing. So far, you haven't shown me one report that she made to Child Protective Services. Not one.
I can show you that.
Show me.
Okay, right here.
Okay, tell me about it, and then you'll show it to me.
I highlighted it here, and it says, Chrissy was invited, but threw a fit It was on Mother's Day is when she wanted to take my kids out to eat. And I said, no, it's Mother's Day. I want to spend time with my children. It's Mother's Day. It says Chrissy was invited but threw a fit. She duct taped the girls by their hands and their feet to the bed. They were screaming, so she duct taped their mouths. And then it also states grandparents broke down the door.
First of all, whether it's true or not, I don't know. You have to demonstrate to me that she placed that call.
Exactly.
Now, you said you had 23 instances where your mother called Child Protective Services, and I only have so much time today.
No CPS reports were made when I was living in her house. As soon as I moved out and I gained custody of my children is when all these reports started. Correct. Is because she wanted to gain custody. I would never do anything to hurt my kids. The duct taping incident, they recanted their story. Grandparents broke the door down.
We did.
And now she's saying that happened.
Maybe you did.
It did not happen.
Okay.
The girls recanted their
listen
story.
to me. I know that the girls recanted their story. I read the report, but the girls initially said it was true. Listen to me very carefully. You have the burden of proof to demonstrate to me that she engaged in a course of conduct over a period of time, over allegations that were not true, that she knew were not true, in order to harm you. And so far, you can't sustain that burden.
She closed out my checking account. I've had 23 mysterious...
Just a second. Did you close out her checking account?
Yes, I did.
When and why?
I don't remember the exact date, but why is because my name, it was on the checks, it says Chrissy Gaskins or Connie Schutz.
Is that correct?
On the account, it said Chrissy or Connie.
Right.
But on my personal checks, I put her name on there just in case the girls needed anything. She could write a check.
Oh, my gosh. Listen to me very carefully. This was a joint account. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Are you claiming that she took your money out of there?
She took my money out of it. Yeah.
How much money did she take of yours?
$12,378.34.
Where did you get $12,000 from?
My oldest daughter, Brittany, she was identical twin, and I lost one at birth, and I've had a settlement.
Go ahead.
I don't know anything about no $12,000, but she had a bunch of overdrafts kept coming. So I said, that's it, I'm done. I closed the account out.
Did you take any money out of the account?
There was never any in there.
Okay, so what you have to show me now, Chrissy, is a check cut to your mother for $12,378. This was a CD, time certificate of deposit. This isn't a checking account, this is a CD.
It was a CD, and what she did was she had the CD on my ex-husband's car loan to secure it so he could drive the car. And she closed out my checking account, she paid the car off, and then cashed it in for $4,100.
She paid off the car?
She paid off the car, and then she had the car towed.
There was a cashier's check that was issued for $4,186.27.
Correct.
What is that for?
That was out of the money that was in an account to pay off Lionel's car that was secured against Lionel's car.
No, that was $8,192.07.
Right.
What did you do with the $4,186.27?
Lionel has it. I don't have it.
She just gave it to Lionel.
Gee, I can't figure this out. It's not part of your lawsuit, so I'm really glad I don't have to figure it out. But it seems clear to me, Ms. Schutz, that the $8,000 was used to pay off a loan.
Right.
$4,000 was left. Right. You say you gave the money to Lionel. I haven't a clue why you would give the money to Lionel, but certainly you acknowledge that it's your daughter's money.
Right.
Okay. What else do you want to tell me, Ms. Gaskins?
Okay.
What you're complaining about with your mother is twofold. One, that she has engaged in a course of conduct to harass you, which you have been unable to sustain in a court. You may feel that way.
Can I show you one more thing?
Second thing that you allege is that your mother has property that belongs to you and or your children. What items do you claim that your mother retained that belonged to you?
She kept all my summer clothes. I got the girls' bunk beds back, but she didn't give me any of the bolts. My work belongings that were there, like a laptop she kept. I have scissors since I'm a cosmetologist that I paid $250 for.
Just a second. Let's start with a laptop. You have a receipt for a laptop computer?
I didn't purchase it. It was owned by Barnum Beauty Supplies. I was working for them.
Did she leave a computer at your house?
Yes, she did.
Where is it?
I called Barnum's Beauty Supplies. They contacted me, left a message on my answering machine, said that they was trying to get a hold of Chrissy. She will not return calls.
Did you return the computer to them?
Barnum's, yes, ma'am.
I also have scissors that I paid for, $250 worth of scissors. I had...
Chrissy, it's very sad. I'm not going to be able to fix this very sick pathology that exists between you and your mother. Try to let there be peace. For the sake of your children. There was clearly a period of time, Ms. Gaskins, when you needed some sort of support from your mother, a home to go to when you were separated from your husband. You say no, but according to you, you and your children lived there until 2004.
She said that she needed the money to live there. She didn't work. She got paid underneath the table for babysitting. She needed money.
Ms. Gaskins, grow up. Take your papers, put them away. Put your effort into some other basket.
Versus Barker. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Do you see that water jug, Bird?
Yep.
You have one of those?
Yeah.
Did you ever?
Yeah.
Did you ever put coins in it?
Yep.
Must be a guy thing. My husband's been collecting that stuff. You collect that stuff. You collect that stuff. Do you collect coins and
No.
that? I don't know any women who collect coins in that thing.
Neither do I.
You know, they put bills in a bank. They put bills in a bank. Okay. Mr. Hawkins, this is the theory of your case. Mrs. Barker is your landlord.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had some trouble with a window in your house, in your apartment. You called her, and she said, well, my son will come over and take care of it.
Yes.
In order for him to do that, at some point, you had to leave the alarm off, which you did do.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you came home, this jar that had been, a jar similar to this one, that had been filled with coins that you were collecting over the years, that had thousands of dollars in it, was gone.
Yes, ma'am.
And you believe that Mrs. Barker and or her son is responsible for your missing property.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been living in your current apartment, sir?
10 years.
You live alone?
Yes, at one point, yes. I mean, yes, I do.
Have you always lived alone?
No, ma'am.
Who else did you live with?
My son stayed with me for a couple years.
Until when?
Until sometime early August.
And what happened at that time?
Well, he wasn't following directions, and he had reached 18. And
So you kicked him out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Since August, has he been back to the house?
No, ma'am.
When did this incident happen with your money jar?
August 26th, ma'am, 2004.
And what date in August did your son leave?
It was sometime around the beginning, like maybe about the 5th or the 6th, somewhere in there.
When he left on the 5th of August, did you change the locks?
No, ma'am.
You found a broken window. On what date?
August 20th.
Is that the date you notified Miss Barker?
Yes, ma'am.
What date were you told by Mrs. Barker's son that he would fix it?
He came over on August 20th. He said that he was leaving town and he wouldn't be back until Sunday, so he couldn't do anything about it.
Okay. So what did you do?
Well, I said, okay. I was actually leaving town also.
Now, you came back when?
I came back on the 22nd, that Sunday.
Your money jar was still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you keep it?
I kept it in a corner. It's like a corner in my living room.
When did you find it was missing?
On August 26th, when I arrived home from work.
When did Mr. Williams fix your window?
He fixed it on August 26th.
Stand up next to your mother, please. Is that correct, Mr. Williams?
Yes, that is correct.
When you got to his house on August 26th, you had told him to leave the alarm off because you had to get in to fix the window.
That's correct, yes.
And you went in on the 26th. Approximately what time?
I'd say late morning, between, I'd say 10 and 12. My recollection's a little blurry at the moment.
Tell me what happened when you went in to the apartment.
The night before, I went by the unit, because I live in the same complex 3 doors down, at which time I took duct tape, and I duct taped it from the outside only, because I didn't have clearance to get into the unit. So I pulled the screen off, and I put duct tape on it, and secured it until the next morning, because I didn't want to pull it out then and leave it overnight, and that would be very unsafe. So the next morning when I came back, late morning, on the 26th, I observed the tape off the window, and the bottom portion of the glass was laying on the deck in front of the window, with the tape gone and the screen back on the window. And so when I approached the door to open it, I was puzzled initially, and so I opened the door, and I recollect that the deadbolt was not locked, just the bottom lock, and I entered the unit, and I was in there for 8 to 10 minutes, took the window out, took it to the glass shop. They told me it'd be about 2 to 3 hours it would take, and come back later. And before I left, I secured the window back up by drawing the blinds, putting the screen back on, and exiting the unit and leaving it the way as if when I entered it, with just the bottom lock locked.
Okay. You don't know anything about his money jar?
Never saw. Like I said, I was in there for 8 minutes. As long as it took me to walk in the door, assess it, pull the window out, put the screen back in, lock the place up, and take it to the shop.
Do you have any criminal record, Mr. Williams?
No, I don't.
That was a tenuous no, I don't.
Well, I do actually. But I believe that's irrelevant.
I had assumed that you didn't.
Right.
I had assumed that you didn't, but now that you tell me that you did, you have a conviction for anything?
I don't recall what my conviction was. It was years ago, but
How
I don't
long
think that's
ago?
irrelevant. 6, 7
How old
years
are you
ago.
now?
33.
Since then, nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, that's an honest answer.
Right.
Good. Now, Mr. Hawkins, you're going to have to explain to me what proof you have that Mr. Williams and or his mother, who was the manager of the property, should be responsible for the loss of your money jar.
Like I said, he told me to turn off the alarm. The other thing is...
well, he had to turn off the alarm or give him the code.
Yes.
Because otherwise he couldn't get into your unit.
Exactly.
You could have stayed home from work.
Yes.
And said, I'm not turning off the alarm, I'm going to stay home from work, and I'll let you in.
Well, on Monday and Tuesday, when I was home, because he actually told me on Monday that he was coming to fix the window, and I didn't hear anything from him, so I went to work, and he called me on my cell phone at work on Wednesday.
So you spoke to him?
Yes.
You could have said, I'm not going to be home, wait until next Monday, I'll take the day off, and you can come and fix the window. You didn't have to turn the alarm off.
No, you're right.
Who was this?
This is my witness, Jim. We had to move the sparkless bottle because he cleans carpets, and just saying that it had to take a big person to actually move that.
I believe it had to take a big person. So he's your friend?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have other friends in the building?
No, ma'am. He doesn't live in my building.
Do you have any friends in the building after 10 years?
No.
None. You have no friends at all?
Yes, I have friends. Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The most remote thing in my mind would be that I would ask one of my children if they came in and took my property. That wouldn't even enter my mind, sir.
And later today,
It started with my wife's car. Her car caught on fire, which then involved the house.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Hawkins says his landlord, Debbie Barker, owes for a water jug full of money that was stolen from his apartment. Debbie says Brian should talk to his son.
Now let's get to your son. Your son left it around the same time. Did you ask your son about your money jar?
Yes, I did.
Why would you ask your son about your money jar?
Because I don't have any enemies or anything. So I went to his mom's house where he was staying.
When did you go to his mom's house?
I went on Saturday. Well, I called him on Friday, on the day that it happened.
And he said?
He said no, and he wouldn't do anything like that.
But you thought he might?
I just felt that, there was tension between me and my son when he left. But
And you knew that he knew it was there?
Yes.
And it's possible that it was your son?
It's possible.
It's possible it was Mr. Williams?
Yeah, it's possible.
But Mr. Williams would really have to be pretty stupid to steal your money, knowing that he lives in the complex and knowing that you know that he was going to be in your apartment that day.
Yes, ma'am.
So he'd have to be a fool. He doesn't strike me as being a fool. Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to suggest to you that you've got to keep your money in a bank. And if you have $3,000 worth of coins, keeping them in your apartment is not a very smart thing to do. Now, I assume you reported this matter to the police.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you reported the matter to the police, you indicated that the perpetrator of this crime was unknown to you.
Yes.
It's unknown to me as well. So what you're suggesting is that I hold the defendants responsible because they were in some way negligent.
Yes.
But I don't find that they were negligent, sir. I think that you had certain options, and one of your options was that you could have said, I will be home, we will fix a time when you can come in and fix the window, but I'm not turning the alarm off for several hours because you're not going to be here for a period of time when the alarm is off because you've got to take the window to have it fixed.
But isn't it as a manager or, you take some responsibility because, when you enter someone's apartment, you're liable for, any wrongdoing?
He's not liable for someone else's wrongdoing, sir. He's not, Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Williams nor his mother are responsible if your son stole your money jar.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Right.
But
and we don't know whether that's true or not, whether it was your son, maybe it was your son and some of his friends, maybe it was some of your son's friends. You don't know that.
Can I say an interesting fact? When he returned home later that evening, he was upset, and he asked me how come I didn't deadbolt the lock. And it was really puzzling to me because I told him the policy usually with a manager is usually when you enter a unit, you leave it the same way when you exit. So when I entered the unit, that deadbolt was not locked. And he said, oh, I always deadbolt it. I always deadbolt it. And I said, Brian, the deadbolt was not locked. And that's the reason why I didn't deadbolt it when I exited after completion of the job. And he furthermore asked me if I played his Nintendo game. And he said, yeah, the Nintendo game was out, the remotes were out, it was left on, there was a game in it.
Is that right, sir?
No, it was actually pulled out of the, I have an entertainment stand, and it was actually pulled out with some other items.
So you mean the person who came in that stole your money jar also played your Nintendo?
Well, they were intending to take it.
Either they were intending to take it or they were playing with it. Was there a game in it?
No, there wasn't no game in it.
He told me there was a game in it that wasn't in it prior. And I remember specifically him saying that the remotes were out and the power on the unit was on.
Is that right, sir?
The power was on because they pulled it out. They pulled it out. That and some other things were packed up right in front of the Nintendo.
You mean some other things that somebody was trying to burglarize?
Well, it was my PlayStation, some games, and some DVDs.
Mr. Williams certainly had more than enough time if he wanted to take that property in order to do it, right?
I guess that they forgot it.
No. No. I would look elsewhere, Mr. Hawkins. I don't think these people are responsible for your loss at all.
May I make a comment? When Brian initially made the phone call to me to let me know that the window was broken, I questioned how it got broken.
No, ma'am.
And he informed me he thought it was his son trying to break in.
No, ma'am. No,
that his son had tried several times in the past.
No, ma'am.
And I said, well, gee, Brian, if you or your son broke the window, I'm not responsible to repair it. That's something that you need to repair. And then he changed his whole story that he wasn't sure if it was his son or not.
No, ma'am. That's not true.
Well,
That's
some of your
true.
conduct, Mr. Hawkins, afterwards suggests that she may be telling the truth because certainly if my house was burglarized, I would not call one of my children to find out if they were the perpetrators. Listen to me very carefully. If my house was missing items and it was clear that my house was the subject of a burglary, the most remote thing in my mind would be that I would ask one of my children if they came in and took my property. That wouldn't even enter my mind, sir, but it entered your mind.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Hawkins says his landlord, Debbie Barker, owes for a water jug full of money that was stolen from his apartment. Debbie says Brian should talk to his son.
Now, you not only called your son, according to you, you went to his mother's house?
Yes, ma'am.
To look for the property? I wouldn't think, would not dawn on me that that's the place that I would look.
That was...
So you thought about it? So what Ms. Barker says when she says to me that you thought your son may have tried to get into the house is supported by what you did after you found your house burglarized.
No, ma'am.
Well, it is, sir. That's what I find, sir. They are not responsible. Look elsewhere. The case is dismissed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Excuse you. Step out.
I was taken aback because, you know, prior to this, there was a friendship, kind of, you know, a neighborly friendship.
I really don't have bar friends. She's been a nice owner,
And I was taken aback by it.
her son, you know, I hope that they didn't take it personal.
Brian's been there. I've owned the building for 8 years, and he's been a great tenant. And he had some problems with his son. You know, sometimes we all have problems with our children.
I just hope that things can remain the way that they were, because they have been good people to me.
Judge Judy is the best. She's very fair.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clark versus Beaver. Step forward, please.
Registered nurse Lori Clark is suing the father of her son's bandmate, communications consultant David Beaver, for the cost of musical equipment. Lori says her son's equipment was damaged in a fire at David's home.
Mrs. Clark, your son and the defendant's son are in a band together. Your son had some music equipment that he had brought over to Mr. Beaver's home. Mr. Beaver's home was destroyed by fire. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I don't think it was an intentional fire.
No.
It was an accident. And according to you, your son's music equipment was destroyed. And you want Mr. Beaver to pay for that. Step up, sir. Tell me your name.
Zachary Clark.
Zachary, when did you bring this music equipment to the Beaver home?
Right when we started.
Give me a month.
November, maybe, I don't know.
Okay, let's say November. And who did you speak to before you brought it over there?
Ben.
Who's that?
His son.
How old are you?
20.
Is Ben the person that you're in the band with?
Yeah.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with Ben. Step up, Ben. Tell me about the conversation.
He answered a thing I put up at Guitar Center for looking for a drummer. And we just talked, and I brought my stuff over. We were just interested in playing music together.
Where was your music equipment stored?
In Ben's room, which is like the basement, the whole lower level.
When for the first time did you meet Mr. Beaver?
The first day I went over there, I think, yeah.
Did you ever have a conversation with him about your music equipment? Before the fire?
Before it?
Before it?
No.
What makes you think, Miss Clark, that an accidental fire renders Mr. Beaver liable for this music equipment?
I claimed on my insurance company, and they denied the request to cover the equipment.
So? What makes you think that he's responsible?
Because that's where the equipment was at the time of the fire, was in the basement of his home.
So?
The equipment is damaged. There's smoke damage, extensive smoke damage.
So?
And I was under the impression that he could claim the damage on his insurance company.
Well, maybe he could, but what makes you think that if he didn't, that he would be liable for the damaged equipment? It was not stored there with his permission. He certainly did not assume any liability to act in any more than a reasonable and prudent manner with regard to it, not to do anything to actively damage it or to prevent it from being damaged from some other force, not leaving it under an open window to let it be hit by the elements. Just reasonable precaution. But this is a fire. This is an accident. Why would he be liable for this equipment?
I guess I thought because the equipment was on his property that both of us would claim the equipment to our insurance.
Well, let's say your car is parked in a parking lot, outside parking lot, and from overhead, a plane emanates some stuff, piece of metal, falls down. You don't know where the plane is. You don't know who the owner of the plane is, what company it is, but the thing comes down and destroys your car. Who's responsible? The owner of the parking lot?
Possibly myself or...
Not the owner of the parking lot, just because the car happens to be sitting in a parking lot. The Beaver is responsible for certain things. If he knew that the equipment was there, if he knew that the equipment was there under these circumstances, then he's responsible to exercise ordinary, prudent care to see that nothing happens to it. How did this fire start, Mr. Beaver?
It started with my wife's car. We have a tuck-under garage. Her car caught on fire, which then involved the house from there. So about a third of the house was damaged by the fire, and the rest was all smoke damage.
Did you question your insurance company with regard to this young man's equipment?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
And?
The fact that we did not own the equipment, we technically could not claim it on our coverage, and we did not.
So he could not claim it on his insurance, so you want him to pay for the damaged equipment out of his own pocket. I don't think he's liable. It's unfortunate, but I don't think he's liable. Is the equipment usable?
It still is, it works, but they told us not to use it from the Savage Audio. Mr. Beaver brought it in and had it checked out, and it says that smoke damage exceeds the value.
Well, are you working after school?
Do I work? No.
Maybe you better get a job so you can buy some new equipment. Right?
Yep.
Good idea. Case dismissed.
Party 46 on the calendar in the matter of Hendricks versus Stone. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Mr. Hendricks, you worked for a period of time in Mr. Stone's restaurant.
Yes, that's correct.
And Mr. Stone made arrangements for his employees to store their clothes in lockers downstairs in the basement.
Yes.
And then one day there was a flood in the basement. Some pipes burst. And you were told to run downstairs and get your things. You did. and they were all wet.
That's correct.
And so, lawsuit is you want Mr. Stone to pay for your clothes because
Correct.
subsequently you were let go.
Right.
of the restaurant.
I got fired over that because specifically I asked him about who's going to pay me for my damaged clothing. That's the terms I got fired for.
What is that that's there, sir?
These are the clothes, Your Honor.
So you left the clothes there?
Yeah, I left them there. I didn't want them.
Why?
Because they was damaged. They was old. I got pictures here proving that my stuff had all types of stuff on it.
Could I see those sneakers, please?
Your Honor, them sneakers was brand new. I only wore them twice. In the pictures I got stuff showing on my sneakers.
These look perfectly fine, sir. Why don't you take a look at them?
I take a look at them, but they washed them though. They had washed my stuff. These was washed.
Something wrong with those sneakers? I don't understand. Could you take a look? I'm a major sneaker person.
The point is, Your Honor, my stuff was wet. They was ruined. I got pictures to show you the stuff that was on my sneakers.
I got teenage boys.
And?
My expertise in this matter is not limited. They look good to me.
They look good to you. Give them back to him.
And at the same time,
I'm going
Your
to take a
Honor,
look at your pictures, sir. Could I see the rest of his clothes, please? And this is your cap, sir?
right, you don't wash Yankee fitted hats. Not a wool one.
Hat might need a little work.
How much did you pay for the cap, sir?
$22.
And what about this?
That's my Rockaway book bag.
That looks perfectly fine to me.
Yeah, because all the stuff was washed.
Well, so what? Of course you wash it.
Well, why should I wash something that I'm not at fault for when they ruined it?
Is that okay?
Smells greasy.
It smells greasy?
Yeah.
And what about these things?
Those my jeans.
Okay. These look all right to you? I mean, I don't know. Who knows?
Come on, son. You still see the stains in the knee parts and stuff like that.
Let me ask you this question, sir. How much did you pay for your jeans and this T-shirt?
My jeans was $48. I bought those out in Florida.
Yeah, go ahead.
And my sneakers right here.
Forget the sneakers. You have the sneakers.
Okay.
What else?
My book bag and my T-shirt.
How much was your duffel bag?
My bag was, I paid, what, $20 for that?
Okay, so altogether you have $100 worth of stuff. Okay? Now let me ask you this question, because you asked me a very good question, Mr. Hendricks, and you say, why should I let it go if he just washed the stuff? Because that's what they told you. You are an employee of Mr. Stone?
I'm the general manager.
What kind of restaurant is this?
Sandwich shop.
How long have you been working for Mr. Stone?
I've been working there before they even opened the doors. I was
For
in
how
there.
long?
Let's say we opened up in May, June, July, August, September, about 5 months.
What were you doing there?
What was I doing? What was my duties there? I was sandwich finisher. I made sandwiches.
Did they pay on time?
Did they pay on time?
Why do you keep asking me the question?
Yes, they did. Yes, they
Listen
did.
to me. Listen to me. When you ask a question, you're thinking about an answer. I don't want you to think about an answer. If I say to you, were you paid on time, the answer is either yes or no.
Yes, I was.
Okay. And how much did you make a week?
Say like 125.
How many hours did you work a day?
How many hours I work a day? 7 hours.
Now, according to what you said to me, you left this job because of these clothes.
No, I did not leave that job because of those clothes. She fired me.
Because of these clothes?
Exactly. Because
okay.
I came.
She fired you because you got into an argument over the clothes.
Correct.
Where are you working now?
Right now, I'm not working.
After you left them, did you work anyplace else?
No, I still have not been working.
Is that because you couldn't find another job, or you chose to take a vacation?
No, it's because right now, at the time, I just had a 3-month-old son. And when I lost my job, I mean, me or my girl had to find a job. She found the job, so right now, I got my son, but I have been looking for jobs, though.
So you're not looking for work because you're a house baby's daddy?
No, I'm not a house baby daddy. I'm looking for a job right now, I just haven't found one.
When you want to be responsible, Mr. Hendricks, you don't give up a job that you've had for 5 months, where you're making a steady paycheck, when you have a brand new baby, over nonsense, over a baseball cap. Do you understand? You don't leave a job over nonsense when you have a responsibility, when you make a baby.
I didn't leave that job.
You had a fight with her about your clothes.
I didn't fight with her. She fought with me. Your Honor, she fought with me. When I came inside...
Just a minute, Mr. Hendricks, I read your answer. You said, I don't want to wash my clothes. You said, I want you to buy me new ones. And she said, I'm not buying you new ones. Go take them to the laundromat on our dime and wash them and see if they come out okay. And you said, no, I'm not taking them to the laundromat. What I'm telling you, Mr. Hendricks, is you want to play in a big boys league. You want to be a father. You want to make babies. You can't be an idiot. You can't get into a fight over nonsense if you have a job that you've had for 5 months.
Yeah, Honor, I didn't get into a fight. I didn't come inside the place, you know what I'm saying, rowdy or whatever. She came at me. She came at me. She asked me, did I want my things? I said, no, I don't want them. I said, because they was ruined. I said, I'm not about to wash those. First of all, I don't wash sneakers, Your Honor. If I sign for a new pair, I just buy a pair. And I only had wore these twice.
You must be a very rich person.
No, I'm not rich at all. That's the whole reason why I'm here. Because the times is hard right now. I got a son. I can't just go out and buy these again.
Then you should have a job.
I would have kept my job. She told me don't come back. She told me, you know what? We don't need you here. Leave. Don't come back.
22-year-old former fast food worker Andre Hendricks is suing his former employer, restaurant owner Paul Stone, for the cost to replace his clothes. Andre says the clothes were in a locker when the restaurant flooded.
Let me hear the other side of the story.
Yes, ma'am, there was a leak downstairs. On that day, I did tell him, take your clothes around the corner to the laundromat to wash them. He didn't want to. I washed the clothes. I didn't fire him actually over the clothes. On the day that he was supposed to come to work, he was supposed to be there at 1 o'clock. He didn't show up to 4 o'clock.
And I called you. And I called you.
Shh, don't interrupt her.
Okay.
It's not the first time that he's been late. It's been ongoing, okay? When he did come in, he said, I don't want the clothes. I don't wash my clothes. I don't want them. You ruined my clothes. I don't want them. I did offer him $100 for his clothes. He told me no.
That's what he's going to get here. So now he's got $100 and no job. And a 3-month-old baby. Very smart. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $100. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
My clothes had all kind of crap. Them pipes run from the toilet to the sink to everything.
I mean, washed the clothes. They're absolutely perfect, as you saw.
It's nonsense, man. It's nonsense, man.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Williams versus Riga. Step forward, please.
School bus driver Connie Williams is suing her former employer, limo company owner John Riga, for non-payment of services rendered and severance pay. John says Connie was terminated due to an accident that was her fault.
Ms. Williams, you were driving a limousine for the defendant's company, and according to your complaint, you believe that you are entitled to severance pay as well as some money for tips because Mr. Riga let you go.
Correct.
You say he fired you for no cause.
Correct.
When did you start to work for him?
It was May of 2003.
And what was the financial arrangement?
It was $6.75 per hour, and every 90 days we would have a 50-cent increase.
You were also supposed to get tips when you drove. Is that right?
Correct. There was a 15% customer service fee, and Mr. Mounts always told me that it was guaranteed because when he would explain to me about a certain drive that we were getting ready.
Just a second.
Okay.
So far, Mr. Riga, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you drove for the company from May of 2003 until when?
August 6th when I was terminated of 2004.
Tell me what happened.
I was on a trip in June, and when I had picked up the parties, I was taking a right-hand turn. As I did so, a taxi came through the intersection, and I hit the taxi.
And it was after that he fired you?
After requesting my services for 2 more trips, 2 months later, he terminated me.
What did he say to you?
He had called me into the office. The 3 of us, Mr. Mounts and John and I, were in a conference.
Who was Mr. Mounts? You own the company, sir?
I'm the general manager.
Okay.
And so John kept asking me, did I feel I had any responsibility to this accident? Had my view changed on the accident? I said, no, I still feel that this was not my fault. I said, I'll take off time if I need to go to court to fight over this. And he said, well, we don't feel that you would win the case, so we don't want you to go to court. And I said, well, so what are you asking me? At that point, John had mentioned that he got a bill for $1,500 for the repair of the taxi. And I said, so what are you telling me? He says, well, my deductible on the insurance is $2,000.
So he wanted you to pay the $1,500 for the taxi?
Correct.
Okay, and you said no.
Right. And he said, we have a moral standoff, and with morals like yours, I do not want you working for my company any further, and I want to terminate our relationship, turn in your keys, and he got up and walked out of the office.
Okay. How much did you collect, Mr. Riga, for tips for this drive that Ms. Williams took when she had the accident?
We did not collect any tip money for this trip. That was reimbursed to the customer based on their inconvenience.
Would you show that to Ms. Williams? Just show the paper to Ms. Williams where you did not collect 15% from that drive.
Well, the corporation, 0.
Okay? So they didn't collect any.
Okay.
Fine. So we're going to get to the termination and severance. Just a second. Mr. Riga, listen to me. Don't play with your paper, sir. Do you have a contract with Mr. Riga?
No.
So you are what they call an employee at will.
Right.
He didn't want you to work for him anymore, right?
Correct.
You don't get compensated for that. He didn't discharge you because you were a woman, right?
Correct.
He didn't discharge you because of your age.
Right.
He didn't discharge you because of your race.
Correct.
He just didn't want to have you around anymore. You don't get compensated for that. That's why we live in a free country. You have the right to leave, and he has the right to fire you, as long as he's not firing you for any reason that is proscribed by law. He fired you because, in his view, you were incompetent. You had an accident, you placed his company at risk, whatever. He's entitled to do that. What makes you think he's not, Miss Williams?
The first thing would be, because of the paperwork that I was handed, it says that we would be terminated if there was 1 at fault or 2 no at fault accidents, whether in the company cars or our own cars.
Well, that's an automatic.
Correct.
That's an automatic, so that you were put on notice that if you had an accident, that was automatic. Don't come to me and complain.
Right, exactly.
Does it say there, for instance, that you can't call him, Mr. Riga, a low-down, slimy slug of an employer? Does it say that in your paper?
No.
But if you called him a low-down, slimy slug, you think he could fire you?
He can fire me for any reason that he wants.
Right! That's what I just said.
Connie Williams says limo company owner John Riga owes for unpaid wages and severance pay. John says he fired Connie after she ran into a taxi cab.
Listen to me. He doesn't have to hire you. He doesn't have to hire you, and he doesn't have to keep you on his payroll as long as he's not firing you for any reason that is proscribed by law.
As discriminative?
Correct. Put a period. Move on. Case is dismissed. That's all. Sorry you didn't get a chance to talk much, sir.
Why do you not excuse? You may step out.
This incident here just showed lack of concentration, lack of good decision making.
As far as being an unsafe driver, this was the first accident in over 10 years in any vehicle.
I believe justice was served today.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Prado versus Hawkins. Step forward.
23-year-old DJ Daniel Prado is suing his former friend, 24-year-old home healthcare aide Gina Hawkins, for non-payment of services rendered. Daniel claims he was the DJ at Gina's wedding and has yet to be paid.
Mr. Prado, it is your claim that the defendant owes you for performing DJ services at her wedding. You performed those services according to you. She didn't pay you, and you want your money. Ms. Hawkins says that you were a guest at her wedding, that there was never any agreement to pay you for the DJ services. That was sort of a gift. That's your defense. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When were you married?
June 19th.
Where?
At the Holiday Inn Airport.
When did you take the venue for the wedding? Just a second. We're going to need that fly swatter here. Yes.
On 03/04 of 04.
March of 04. So 3 months in advance.
Well, that was the last payment.
Go. Give it to me. You're not fast enough.
You were talking to him.
Okay. So you bought a wedding dress?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you order that?
About a year and a half.
And when did you order your invitations?
6 months prior, I believe.
And how much in advance did you send out the invitations?
6 or 8 weeks in advance.
Okay, so I have a little background now. When were you contacted by Ms. Hawkins with regard to providing DJ services?
About a week before the wedding, she called me and said, I don't have a DJ, I need a DJ. Do you think you'll be able to do it? And how much would you charge me for doing it?
How did you know her?
Something to say there.
Well, we've been college friends. We've known each other for about 4 years.
Were you invited to the wedding?
I did get an invitation on May the 11th.
Had you responded?
Yes, I did tell her that I would go.
How come you called a week before? You didn't have music for the wedding?
No, I didn't call a week before. He came over to my house in, I believe, March. In our dining room, with my husband as a witness, said that he would do the DJing as a wedding gift.
Had you ever heard him do his DJ bit before?
I knew he had other DJ projects, and we were friends, and it's something he wanted to do for me, and I agreed.
And that was 3 months before the wedding?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Mr. Prado.
Your Honor, during that time that she's talking about, I went to go and visit with her when she came into town, and she was talking about the wedding, but there was never a mention of me DJing at the party. She said she was going to find somebody else because she wanted me to be a guest at her wedding. So,
okay.
You know.
So tell me about the contract that you had, Mr. Prado.
Well, like I said, she called about a week, and she told me, you know, can you do this? What kind of rate would you be able to give me? I said, well, I'll give you a $300 package, which includes DJing, lighting, everything included, for $300.
And she said okay.
And she said okay.
And you said that was never the discussion. The discussion was before in your kitchen 3 months before. He would like to do it. And you said fine, okay. You discussed it with your fiance. That was good.
Yes,
you have a videotape according to your answer that you want me to see?
Yes, and I also have pictures here that shows that he was dancing with my maid of honor, which he also dedicated a song called Baby Back.
I don't care.
Which was definitely inappropriate.
Listen, I have things to do. You want to show me the video?
Yes.
No.
Show me the video.
And this shows him acting unprofessionally.
Listen to me. I have eyes. I can see.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't editorialize. I'm not interested.
In the video, you can see him doing.
Oh, I love it. No, he's back there. That's very nice. He's just sort of encouraging everybody to dance. That's wonderful. And everybody looks like they're having a great time.
No, he's actually on the dance floor.
Listen to me. Who's that?
This is my husband, and he's throwing the garter. His uninvited brother catches the garter.
I don't care. Now turn it off. It's enough, please. It's enough. Mr. Prado.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen to me very carefully, sir. This is not a very difficult case. This is a case that deals with common sense. No other questions I asked Mrs. Hawkins before. This was a very well-planned wedding. She ordered her dress a year and a half in advance. She took the hall a year in advance. She ordered her invitations well in advance. And if I were to believe your story, I would have to believe that she waited until a week before her wedding to take care of the second most important thing after the groom that a bride thinks about, which is the music. Maybe the third, second being the dress. And Miss Hawkins seems like a very organized lady. She ordered everything well in advance, including the music. This is not a lady that waits until a week before to solidify the music for her wedding, Mr. Prado. Do we understand each other?
I understand, Your Honor.
Good. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
All you excused, you may step out. Matter of Buck versus Westfall. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Mr. Buck, in what state do you reside, sir?
Oregon.
I assume it is legal in Oregon, in the state where you reside, for you to enter into a contract in order to provide you with medicinal marijuana.
Yes, ma'am.
Which you say you need because you are ill and you take it for medical reasons.
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that you entered into a contract with Mr. Westfall for him to provide you with marijuana, which was prescribed by your doctor for you, and that he breached that contract, did not provide you with the marijuana. You had given him a certain amount of money. Not only do you want that money back, but you want other non-specific damages because you say that because of his breach, you were not provided with the marijuana, you suffered physically as a result of that, and you want him to pay damages.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, what's the nature of your illness, sir?
I'm paraplegic. I also have stress-related seizures, and I have extreme muscle spasms because of the paralysis.
And for how long have you been under doctor's care, part of which is the use of marijuana?
For a little over a year.
And how often are you supposed to use marijuana?
5 to 6 times a day.
Where did you meet Mr. Westfall?
I met him at a medical cannabis awards that was going on in Portland, Oregon.
When?
In the 22nd of November of last year.
And when did you enter into the agreement with him?
We signed the transfer papers on the 25th, and he started to grow in the garden for me on the 28th.
Can I see the papers that you signed? What is a transfer agreement?
Giving him the legal right to grow the medicine for me.
It's called a change request form, and what this is a form that illustrates, or it tells people where the cannabis is going to be grown. It's going to be telling who the cannabis is growing it, and he signed this on the 7th of January. Legally,
just a minute.
I cannot grow any medicine until that's signed and given to DHS.
When did you terminate your relationship with him?
March 29th.
So approximately little less than 3 months.
Correct.
According to you, since he signed this agreement. Right now, he says he signed it in the end of November.
That's his signature.
Who filled this out? Here?
We filled in 2 of those request forms. The first one that we filled out, Your Honor, he was living at his mother's address, which is not the same address that was there. In January, on the 9th, we moved the garden from his mother's house into his new home that he just moved to.
Okay, the reason I'm asking you that question,
Mr.
Mr. Westfall, the reason I'm asking you that question, Mr. Westfall, is I read your answer very carefully, and your answer said that your agreement was that you would grow this marijuana for him between 4 and 6 months from the day you executed the agreement. And if I believed what you tell me, that this was the date that he signed the agreement, and you couldn't start growing until he signed the agreement, that was less than 3 months.
Correct.
So he is correct that you signed your original agreement sometime in November.
That's right, because we moved. We moved. I moved, and we had to fill out a new caregiver form for the new address. So he is correct.
There was another agreement other than this one.
Yes, he is correct.
Okay, so you started to give him money. How much money did you give him after you signed the original agreement?
$425 over a period of 4 months.
Is that correct, Mr. Westfall?
That's perjury, and that's a flagrant lie.
You just asked me yes or no. That's not correct. Show me a canceled check, sir.
He asked for cash. He didn't want anything in paper. These are the dates and the amounts I wrote in a journal as soon as he left my house. Every payment was made at my house, and my wife was
How much did he give you, Mr. Westfall?
He gave me $50 a month plus $20 on top of that twice, and he said he gave me, my mother, $50 for her electricity.
Look at me.
He gave her $50. He said he gave her $50 on the 4th of January. He paid the 70 plus the 70, and then another 50. $170 is what he paid.
That would be $190.
But I don't know if that other 50 is there.
That would be $190 so far. He says $420. Okay, and then what happened, Mr. Buck?
Come the 27th, I was supposed to have my medicine delivered to me on the 28th of March. On the 27th...
Just a second. Who said so?
The gardener, Gordon. He told me that my crop would be in. The first time it was February, then it was the 18th of March. Then it went from the 18th to the 28th.
Of March?
Of March.
Yes.
Then come the 27th of March, I called his house to ask him what time he would be coming over on the 28th. He said that he needed another 2 weeks, which is over and over again the same excuse.
Okay.
So I asked him if I could please come out and see the garden, because after 5 months I had not been allowed to see it.
It wasn't 5 months.
4 months.
Right.
And so he refused to let me. And then that night, about 5.5 hours later, he brought this one plant over to me, and it was nothing like it was supposed to have been. He also brought me this paper to sign that was handwritten by him, suggesting that I asked him to bring the plants to me when I never did. I asked to see the garden. And also with that is a picture of the plant that he did bring me, and there are 2 pictures of a plant that should have been what it looked like at that stage.
Okay, so tell me what happened, Mr. Westfall.
What happens, like I said, we met.
Just tell me what happened with this plant.
What happened was...
You started to grow his marijuana sometime in late November, because that's when you signed the original agreement. Okay, now we're in March. We're at the end of March.
So we moved the plants into the new home, went through a shock. My daughter got sick because of the mold that was going through the air, so I had to move those plants into another space on the property.
Now, when did you communicate the fact that because of your own family problems, you had to move the marijuana plant?
Well, it wasn't because I had to move the plants.
Listen to me. When did you communicate?
The 28th. The
28th of what?
The 29th.
Of what month?
March 29th.
Well, when did you actually move the plants, Mr. Westfall?
The plants were already moved 2 months before that.
Just a minute. Did you tell him that you moved the plants that were supposed to be his went into shock?
Yes, but that was because of a light problem that we had, unforeseen light problem.
I don't care what your problems are, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
I'm asking you when you communicated that fact to Mr. Buck. In March?
March.
Or in March? Well, that's wrong, Mr. Westfall.
No, I was in
That's wrong, Mr. Westfall.
Richard Buck Sr. says horticulturist Gordon Westfall didn't deliver his medical marijuana plants as promised.
If because of your own family problems, your daughter's problems, mold problems, whatever problems, you could not complete your contract in a timely fashion, it was your responsibility as a caregiver to advise Mr. Buck that he couldn't have his contracted for medicine because of your problems. You chose not to do that. That's not fair, sir.
But that isn't right. The reason why we had the delay was on the 29th. I called him and I said we had a lighting problem that put the plants back 4 to 6 weeks.
You had problems with it before. That's what you just told me. Don't try to dance around that.
Not for the flowering plants.
Not for the flowering plants. What are you growing, gardenias, sir?
There's three different stages of growth. There's the propagation stage where you clone and you grow for 21 days or so, and that will get your roots. After that, you grow for 3 months in the vegetative state, which allows it to get tall enough to be put into the flowering state, in which I have a video of the...
I'm not interested.
...of the plant.
You're fast-talking me, sir.
And when
You're fast-talking me.
You cannot have any light on those flowers for the 70 days that you flower them. And there was a lighting problem, and that's what was the problem.
Who caused the lighting problem?
There just was a the timer.
What do you mean?
The timer didn't go off.
Whose fault is that?
It's a timer, the manufacturer, obviously.
No, sir, that's your responsibility. You're supposed to be watching the store.
Every day I go in there.
Well, then it's your responsibility. Mr. Westfall, you do not deny that you had a verbal contract to provide these plants for him.
Correct.
I think that you're doing a lot of fast talking, sir. I don't know what you did with the plants. I don't know if you sold the marijuana to somebody who was paying you more money. I haven't the foggiest idea what you did. But you breached a verbal agreement to provide him with something that the state of Oregon says that he is permitted to have in order to ameliorate a physical condition. He contracted that you should provide for him, and I find that there is absolutely no excuse for you not providing for it in a timely fashion. Now, how long did it take you, sir, to get the medicinal marijuana that you need?
I haven't gotten any from Gordon at all.
Not from him.
I've had to ask for donations, and there's not always available, so I've had to do it.
You had to ask for donations, so you want your money back.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's all that you're going to get, sir, and I find that you gave him $425, although he says no, but you're certainly not going to get any other damages because you've been provided with it, even though you had to ask for it as a favor. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $425. That's all.
Thank you.
Why is that excuse me? Step out.
$150, he's suing me for $400. He's a liar.
He told me he was doing this for the good karma in his soul, but then turned around to try to charge me over and over and over again for money and then lied about it himself.
He required and made me give him his plants after he yelled and called my pregnant wife names on the phone.
100% of the time it happens just before the medicine is to be delivered, and they're looking at all this money, and that's what the greed is usually what takes people.
I ended up cutting off my relationship with him. I gave him his plants, and that was it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Halsell versus Thompson. Step forward, please.
19-year-old marketing researcher Tracy Halsell is suing his former friend, 24-year-old hairstylist Antonio Thompson, for damages to his apartment. Antonio says Tracy slept with his girlfriend.
Mr. Halsell, the defendant used to be a friend of yours, and he was also your roommate. According to you, he moved in with you into your home. Is that right?
Correct.
And there was some sort of a falling out, and you claim that your house was burglarized and vandalized, some property destroyed, and you believe that the defendant is responsible for that. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
He says he had nothing to do with this burglary. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did he move in with you?
At the beginning of August, around the 13th.
And when did he move out?
Around October, the middle of October.
And when was your house vandalized?
Around the time that he moved out, because I never...
Well, give me the date, sir.
I don't know the exact date.
Well, you have to have the exact date, sir.
Because he came back to get his stuff. So the day that I put him out was like the 8th, because that was on the police report. But the day that he came back to get all his stuff was in between that day and the 15th.
Where's the police report?
The police report is in my luggage that I lost at the airport, along with some pictures.
What kind of damage was done to your apartment?
My TV, it seemed like that he just took a stick or a bat.
Now don't tell me what he did. I asked you what kind of damage was done to the apartment.
My vases were destroyed that were given to me by my mother. Customized television was destroyed. Also a dining room table and a few holes in the wall that were fixed because I had insurance on the apartment.
Now, why do you think Mr. Thompson, when he moved out, would do such a thing?
The day that he was initially not planning on returning, I slept with his girlfriend, so...
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How much damage did you suffer from Mr. Halsell?
Over $1,500.
See what happens when you allow your body to be ruled by something other than your brain, sir?
Yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tracy Halsell claims former friend Antonio Thompson trashed his apartment. Antonio says Tracy slept with his girlfriend.
He found you with his girlfriend? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
She's still your girlfriend? What's her name?
Amy.
Who is this?
This is the neighbor. This is my neighbor. He saw Tony come in and out the house. And when Tony left the house, he went into the house to see the damage that was done to my property by Tony. So he called me on my cell phone, and then that's when I returned back to the home.
So when you made the police report, you told the police that you had a witness and that it was Mr. Thompson who had done the damage to the apartment?
Yes.
Step up here. Tell me your name.
Anthony Coleman.
Did you speak to the police?
Yes, I did.
When?
Like right after the incident when Mr. Halsell had returned to the apartment.
And did the police officer write down what you were saying?
Yes.
And you told him that you had seen Mr. Thompson?
Yes, coming in. He went in the house, and that's when I first saw him. And like when he left, that's when I went to the apartment and checked it out, and that's when all the property was damaged.
Did the police speak to you, Mr. Thompson?
No, ma'am.
That's odd.
He's lying.
That's very odd that the police didn't speak to you.
Right. Once he gave me the description of what he had on and everything, because the police also asked for a description of him, he was called later on that day. The police contacted me immediately and asked me what he looked like, if I can identify him. I told the police officer I could identify him. I went to District 1 Police Station, and it was him.
Yes?
I was never arrested.
Were you taken into custody?
No.
So what you're telling me, Mr. Thompson, is that Mr. Halsell
Yes, ma'am.
never spoke to the police and gave them your description, and you were never taken into custody. You were never taken down to the precinct and at least spoken to by a police officer. That never happened. Is that what you're telling me?
They never contacted me.
They never contacted you at all with regard to this. That's what you're telling me. And if the plaintiff can produce at some point the documents from the police department indicating that you were in fact taken into custody, then that would mean you were lying. Is that right?
Correct.
And you understand that if you lie about one thing, I can conclude that you lie about everything. You understand that?
Correct.
Oh, then this is going to be an easy case for me. And it's your statement, Mr. Thompson, that you had absolutely nothing to do with the destruction that took place in his apartment.
No, not at all.
Now, when you went to retrieve your property, sir, I assume that he said to get your stuff out?
No, that's not how it went.
Well, how did it happen?
When I came home, him and my girlfriend were laying in the bed, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know if he seen me, but I know she seen me because I walked out, and then she tried to come out to reconcile and explain herself, whatever, and I just left it alone. I left my key to the apartment on the speaker, which was right next to the door. Then I didn't talk to him. Maybe like 2 or 3 days later, he called me to ask me what was going on and why hadn't I been home, whatever. Why did I leave my key there? And then I explained it to him. And
he called to ask you why you didn't come over? The girl didn't come back and say...
I don't know what she did. She got in her car when I left.
You mean she jumped up out of bed naked and ran out into the street and jumped into her car?
When I left out the room, she jumped out of the bed with him and she grabbed her clothes right there and was trying to explain herself to me or whatever.
And you didn't speak to her at all when she got into her car?
I spoke to her for a second outside.
You know, and you said what?
I asked her what was going on. She was just, trying to tell me that it's just something that happened is what she tried to say. But
okay.
I just left it alone because she wasn't that important.
Okay, now what happened when you went back to your property? Was any property of his in the house destroyed?
No, when I went back 3 days later, whatever, he had called me and I told him that I was going to come and get the rest of my things out of his house, whatever. So when I went over there, he was there because I gave him my key and he let me in. And I got all of my things out of there and I left.
And you never went back?
Me and
so
him.
this gentleman is mistaken when he says that you went back there afterwards. He's mistaken.
Right.
And you did speak to the police?
Yes, I did.
And gave them your name?
Yes.
And they wrote down what you said?
Yes.
How much damage did you suffer from Mr. Halsell?
Over $1,500 in damaging.
Okay, see what happens when you allow your body to be ruled by something other than your brain, sir?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is what we're going to do, Mr. Halsell. I am provisionally granting you a judgment in the amount of $1,500 on condition that the court receive within 5 days photographs of the damage as well as the police report indicating prompt outcry on the specific date that you indicated, and the fact that Mr. Thompson was in fact taken into the police station and questioned with regard to this incident. Is that fair, Mr. Thompson? Perfect. That's the judgment of the court. Get me the documents. Thank you, Mr. Halsell. Goodbye.
Please, I see you. Step out. Fine, thanks. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
According to your complaint, you have overpaid child support to Mrs. Denton for triplets that were born as a result of a brief relationship that you had with Miss Denton. We'll get into the logistics and the timing of it in a moment. And these children have been adopted at this point by her husband.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, this overpayment was made after the adoption was finalized. So you want the $2,400 back. Mr. and Mrs. Denton say that it's true that
the money was paid, it was taken out of your salary, I assume, after the children were adopted, but that for a very long time you paid nothing. So stop complaining.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So when were you and Mrs. Denton together?
In March of 1998, ma'am.
And was it a monogamous relationship, or was it a boyfriend-girlfriend, or was it a casual relationship?
Casual.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you find out that these children were going to be born?
Before I had left for Korea in 1998, she had mentioned to me that she was pregnant.
Mentioned?
Mentioned it.
That's not usually something you just mention.
Well, it wasn't actually her that had told me. It was one of her friends that she had put on the phone. They told me that she was pregnant. And then shortly before I had left...
Okay. Do you remember what month that was? You remember?
It was April.
I told him in April.
Had you ever been pregnant before?
No, ma'am.
So this was just a lucky break that you had triplets the first time around.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. And lucky for you. Did you have any communication with Miss Denton from April until the triplets were born?
Very little. Right before I had left, she had actually mentioned to me that they were triplets.
What month did you tell them they were triplets?
When I found out in June.
Miss Denton, where were you living at the time?
With my mother and father.
Were you shocked?
Very.
Were your parents shocked?
Very.
In June, you advised them that they were going to be triplets.
Yes, ma'am.
And you left for Korea.
Yes, ma'am.
There was never any discussion of the two of you finalizing a relationship.
Ma'am, I didn't believe they were mine to begin with from the get-go.
Now, the children were born when?
They were born in 1999.
When?
September.
September 1998.
I'm sorry, 98.
September the 17th.
And when did you meet Mr. Denton?
In June of 1998.
Had you ever been married before?
No, ma'am.
And so you understood when you were getting married to this lady that you were taking on the responsibility of instant family.
Yes, ma'am.
When, for the first time, did you discuss with Amy the probability of your adopting the girls?
It was discussed off and on early in our relationship, shortly after we got married.
When did you get married?
Actually, 2 weeks after they were born, October 3rd of 98.
During the time that you were courting, between June and October, did you discuss what the family dynamic was going to be with him?
We were trying to decide whether or not that we should let them know that they have that their biological father, or just leave it as if I was the father. She was persistent on the fact that they needed to know that that was their father at first, and I really didn't have that feeling in my heart because I wanted to personally take care of myself.
When did you notify Sergeant Juan that he was the father of triplets?
When they were born, Red Cross sent a message stating that if they wouldn't let me say that his kids were born because we weren't married. They told him that a friend of his had triplets.
And you received that message?
I did not, ma'am.
You did not?
I did not receive that.
When did you first communicate with him?
In June of 2000. Well, I went to child support in June of 2000.
When the children were born, did you put his name on the birth certificate as the father?
No, ma'am. They would not let me.
Had you and your husband at that point decided that it was best if he adopted children?
We had discussed it.
And I assume that he was parenting these little girls.
Yes,
and that's
ma'am.
a full-time job.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm in the service as well. I'm in the Army.
When you went to child support, what was the purpose of your going to child support?
To get help, because it's very expensive.
At that point, were you anxious for your husband to adopt the children?
We would like it. We were wanting it, yes.
I assume. You figure, well, if you push him to pay, he'd be more than anxious to give up his parental rights since he hadn't seen the children anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the back scenario. Well, what happened the first time you raised the issue of adoption?
He said he would not do it.
And when was that?
I do not recall exactly when it was.
Is that before or after?
It was after child support had started.
Ma'am, they actually had asked me prior to the child support starting. They wanted me to sign the papers so he could adopt them. I refused to because, number one, I didn't know for a fact that they were mine. I wasn't going to do it without blood tests.
So that they asked you to sign the papers relinquishing your parental rights before child support?
Correct.
That sounds more likely. And then child support was ordered, you went and you took a blood test, and as it turns out, you are the biological father of these 3 little girls.
Correct.
Did you start to visit them?
I did. On numerous occasions, I attempted to go over there. She had actually called me a few times to come over and spend some time with the girls. Unfortunately, most of the time it was late night. I didn't have a lot of time during the day or on weekends to see them unless it was later in the evening.
Why?
Because most of the time during the day I was working until about 1700, 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Do you have other children, sir?
I did have one other child at the time, yes.
What do you mean you did?
I gave her up for adoption as well.
You just keep pollinating around, Sergeant Juan. You got to keep it zipped, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know, you're a grown-up, or at least you're old enough to be a grown-up. You're not responsible enough to be a grown-up, Sergeant, because grown-ups don't make irresponsible decisions all the time. And apparently you did.
And later today...
How long had you been in prison?
3 years, 7 months, 14 days.
And how old was your son when he was murdered?
23.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jeffrey Wan says the mother of his triplets, Amy Denton, and her husband, Daniel, owe for the return of child support. Jeffrey claims the couple accepted money after Daniel adopted the children.
So far, you got 4 babies, and it's easy to sign a piece of paper. It's much easier to, use protection. Much easier. Causes a lot less pain to a lot more people, get hurt. You have family?
Yes, ma'am.
You have mother?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a father?
I do.
You have siblings?
Yes.
Right now you have a mother and a father who have 4 grandchildren that they will never see. That creates a heartache, even if you put it in the back of your mind someplace, right?
Yes, it does.
You gotta grow up. Who is this?
That's my wife, ma'am.
You have children together?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay. Well, after child support was ordered and you tried to see the girls and there was problems late night and whatever, when did you decide that you were going to consent to the adoption?
It was April of last year. They had asked me to allow them to change the names to Denton or add the name Denton onto their last names because they had another daughter as well who had the last name Denton. The girls wanted to have the same last name with their little sister. At first I said I wasn't going to allow it, and then I said the only way that it was going to happen was if he would adopt them. I don't want to have to put up with not being able to see my daughters on numerous occasions.
You didn't want to have 3 children have somebody else's last name and you paying support, right?
Correct.
Okay. And had your other child already been adopted?
Yes, ma'am.
So you knew how it worked?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the adoption finalized?
It was finalized in August of 2003.
For how many months did you receive support that came right out of his check?
I received it August, September, October, November, and December.
All right, Miss Denton, tell me why you don't think you should give him the money back.
I don't feel we should owe him anything. He didn't pay us anything for 2.5 years. We asked him to please come see the children. We gave him chances. He would not do it because he did not want to do it in our home. He wanted to take them out of our home, which was fine. We felt after they got to know him and he got to know them, then they could go with him.
Why are you laughing, sir?
I'm just finding some of this to be amusing, ma'am.
Why?
The way that she said that I never wanted to go see I never wanted to see them. I never attempted to. Is completely wrong. On numerous occasions I had tried to go see them, and most of the time they were with their grandparents or with their aunt and uncle or just out and about doing something where I wasn't afforded the opportunity to see them until later in the evening.
Sergeant, you are not a person without rights. And if visitation is something that you want, regularly scheduled visitation, you go to court and you say, I want a regular fixed period of visitation with my girls, and the court will set that kind of an order. But you can't stand there like a crybaby and say, well, she only let me see the children when it was convenient for her and she made it difficult for me. You're a grown-up, or at least you're old enough to be a grown-up. You're not responsible enough to be a grown-up, Sergeant, because grown-ups don't make irresponsible decisions all the time. And apparently you did. Mrs. Denton, what I'm gathering from the 2 of you is that from the time the 2 of you met while you were pregnant, it was your hope, and your hope, sir, that you were going to be raising these girls as your own, and he wasn't going to be involved in your life.
Yes.
So that you did not pursue the issue of child support for several years. Yes. You were trying to see if you could get rid of him. The longer he abandoned his responsibility and the fact that he had 3 children, the easier it would be for you to terminate his parental rights, free the children for adoption, and allow your husband to adopt them, which is really what you wanted.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have to return the money. I mean, you got what you wanted. And you knew that you shouldn't have taken this money after the adoption was finalized. When were you notified that the adoption was finalized?
Not until December.
Well, as of August of 2003, this gentleman, the pollinator, had no legal obligation to support these girls because you and your husband got exactly what you wanted, which was you got him out of your life. You don't have to worry about him coming to visit, speaking with you. You don't have to worry about making decisions with him. He's out of your life. And you knew that you had no right to keep this money, so you could have sent it back to him. You chose not to do that. Well, that's the wrong thing to do. If you're cutting the cord, you cut the cord, and you don't accept the money. And you didn't ask for any money until 2000. Anyway, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,400. I assume that these are the only 4 children that you have. Is that right?
These are the only 4 children that I have, yes, ma'am.
Perfect. That's all. You're going to think about that, aren't you?
I have one on the way.
Good. This one I assume you're going to stick with and support.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. That's all. Thank you. Good luck.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I felt like I was being taken advantage of. They were just collecting the money from me that I couldn't do anything about.
He knew from the beginning. He blew me off, basically.
I can't say that I was always the best person, but at the same time, I don't think I was irresponsible.
We would invite him to our home to see them, but he wouldn't because it wasn't the way he wanted it.
I think that he tried really hard on trying to see the girls, and they made it absolutely impossible.
Having to explain to the girls when they get older that we tried, and he chose not to be part of their lives.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Young versus Thomas. Step forward.
Plaintiff Sarah Young is suing her deceased son's father, Bill Thomas, for his share of the funeral. Sarah says their son was murdered outside a convenience store.
You and Mr. Thomas had a son together.
That's correct.
That son, unfortunately, according to what I read in your complaint, was murdered.
Right.
And there was an insurance policy.
That's correct.
And the insurance policy was divided in half.
Yes.
You received half, and Mr. Thomas received half.
That's correct.
At the time that your son was murdered, you were in prison, Mr. Thomas, is that right?
That's correct.
How long had you been in prison?
3 years, 7 months, 14 days.
And how old was your son when he was murdered?
23.
You know the date of his death?
Yes, I do.
What was that?
January the 10th, 2004.
Now, what kind of an insurance policy did he have, Miss Young?
He worked for UPS, and he had a life insurance on the job.
And how much was the life insurance policy, the value that was paid?
It was $24,300.
And you received $12,000?
Yes, I did.
And Mr. Thomas received $12,000?
Yes, he did.
Is that right, Mr. Thomas?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. How much did the funeral cost?
The funeral was about $9,000.
And you want him to pay for half of the burial, which would be about $4,500.
Okay.
And what do you say about that, Mr. Thomas?
Well, the funeral
is not an answer, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, ma'am. The funeral only costs $3,484.
You can prove that?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see it, please. Is that your defense, sir, that it wasn't as expensive?
No,
or is your defense that you don't want to pay at all?
No, my defense is, not that I didn't want to pay at all. My defense is that I was never asked to pay anything to this day. The only time that I figured that I owed something is when I was served papers for $5,000. And I was away from my home at the time, and when I came home, and my wife said, your daughter came by and served some papers on you for her mother.
You testified that you paid directly out of your money for the funeral, is that right?
Yes.
Can I see the checks to the funeral parlor and the undertaker?
Hello.
And how did you pay them? By check?
Yes.
Can I see the checks, please?
I don't have the checks because I went through the credit union and I didn't know I had time to get the copy of it.
You had plenty of time, madam. These were in January of 2004.
What I meant, the reason I didn't have time to get the check when I decided to file, because first I was just going to let him walk away with the money and just go on about my business and take the pains in a different way. So after he started getting small with me and talking to me, you know, any type of way, I said, you know, I'm not going to let you get away with that. I spent 23 years old, 23 years climbing a pole, crawling on the house, taking care of my child. And then when he got killed, all you did is walked over and got half of the money. And I will not let you get away with that. And that's why I filed.
Okay, now, just Ms. Young, but you have to understand, your claim is for half of your son's funeral expenses.
Right.
Now, Mr. Thomas is under no legal obligation to pay you half of your son's funeral expenses.
Okay.
I'm not saying he doesn't have a moral obligation, but this isn't a moral court. This is a law court. So he has no legal obligation to pay for the funeral. But assuming today, Mr. Thomas says to me, I would pay for half. That's the right thing to do. But you don't have proof of what you paid. And I'm asking you why.
I didn't burn the check.
Well, I can't help you, madam.
Okay.
If you come back, if you want to dismiss this case without prejudice and come back and show me proof that you've paid, that's fine. But that's only if Mr. Thomas will agree that if she has proof that she actually paid for this funeral, you say she did not. But if she has proof that she actually paid, are you prepared to pay for half?
Yes, I'm willing to pay for half, Your Honor.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Your Honor.
That's it.
Parties are excused. You may step out of count in the matter of Berry versus Hayden, Jr. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Berry, Mr. Hayden was your live-in boyfriend until a while back, and according to your complaint, he took your car without permission one day, drove it. You don't know what happened, but he says he fell asleep at the wheel and he totaled your car. You want the value of that car because you say you were forced to purchase another car and your monthly payments have, of course, increased as a result of purchasing the new car.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hayden says that he had an agreement with you.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right?
Yes.
And that he doesn't owe you anything for the new car. So he's going to tell me all about that agreement in a moment, and I am anxiously awaiting to hear the details of it.
Me too.
Good. We'll all wait together.
When did you live with Mr. Hayden, Miss Berry?
I lived with him for about 3 months from at the end of December until about the end of February.
Had you known him for a while before he moved in with you?
We used to go to high school together.
What prompted you to move in together?
I was conned into it. John is a very good con artist.
How were you conned into it?
He figured that we could help each other out by, he didn't have anywhere to stay at that time, and he was working and that he could help me with my bills, and that's not how it happened.
So he moved into your apartment?
Yes, ma'am, just like that. Conned his way right in.
When did he take your car and total it?
It was on February 11th.
Tell me about that, Mr. Hayden.
Well, I did have permission to drive the car. I drove the
Your
car.
Honor.
I had my own set of keys. I drove the car on several occasions. And
Okay, tell me about February 11th, sir.
February 11th, I woke up like I normally did and went to my where I have to go.
Just a second. Oh, shh, listen to me. February 11th, Judge, I woke up at...
Judge, I woke up...
No, look at me. Here.
I woke up around 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
And you got out of bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
I don't want to hear you yet. He's talking. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You got out of?
I got out of bed.
And who was in bed with you? Look at me. Eyes.
The plaintiff.
Are you sure? Don't speak. Remember what day of the week it was, sir?
It was probably around the end of the week.
Are you sure about that?
As sure as I can be.
What do you mean as sure as you can be?
Because,
Mr. Hayden, I assume you work, right?
I did work until probably 2 weeks ago.
Fine, you were working on February 11th because you started to say to me before, I got up my usual time and I was going to do usual things, so I assume you got up 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning because you were going to...
To my rehabilitation.
What kind of rehabilitation, sir? Is not an answer.
Well, I'd rather not go into it.
Well, you have to tell me, sir, what you were doing, because I'm going to ask you specific questions, and I don't give a rat's behind what you prefer not to go into. Put your hand down.
I was going to get my treatment for my methadone.
Okay, so you were going to your methadone program.
Yes.
I've heard that before, sir. You know, I've been a judge for a long time. You have a morning methadone program?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And where had you been the night before, sir?
At home.
All night?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got up 6 or 7 o'clock to go and get your methadone at the program. And you were, in fact, working. So where were you working?
At Uno's Pizzeria on Beachmont Avenue.
What time do they open?
Around 11 o'clock.
What time do you do at your methadone program?
Anywhere between 6 and...
Look at my eyes.
10.
So what were you doing getting up at 6 o'clock, sir, when you didn't have to be at the pizza place until 11?
Because sometimes I go in early so I can get a few extra hours in.
Good. So you were being conscientious.
Yes, I worked 3 doubles a week plus... The other days that I worked 6 days a week. 3 of them were doubles, and 3 of them were regular days.
All right, so you got up between 6 and 7, and you had your own set of keys to the car. You got into the car, and what happened, Mr. Hayden?
I was traveling on my way to the clinic, and I fell asleep at the wheel.
Well, according to you, you'd been home the whole night before. Well, how come you fell asleep at the wheel?
Well, not real sure. I've had problems in the past with driving, falling asleep.
How many times in the past have you had problems driving?
Well, I've never actually wrecked from it, but, you know, I've had several close calls.
And when was that?
Years past.
Not when you were with Miss Berry?
No.
Did you ever tell Miss Berry before she gave you permission to use the car according to you and gave you your own set of keys to the car that you've had near misses with falling asleep at the wheel?
I'm sure she was aware.
No, I didn't ask you that question, Mr. Hayden. I want you to trust me, sir. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst day. Did you ever tell her that you had near misses of falling asleep at the wheel of a car?
I'm not sure.
Good, that's an answer. Did he ever tell you that?
No, ma'am.
Of course not. Now, was this Miss Berry's only means of transportation, or did she have a garage full of cars?
She had 2 vehicles.
Tell me about the 2 vehicles that she had.
One was a Taurus and the Civic.
And which car were you driving?
The Civic.
Is that the car you were driving, the Taurus?
No, ma'am. I had a 95 Taurus that had been broken down for a couple months. My only means of transportation was the Honda Civic. Okay,
Miss Berry, tell me about the 10th of February, which was the day before this incident happened.
The 10th of February, ma'am, I was getting tired of being in this little relationship with John because he wasn't working like he said he was. And I had asked him that, you know, pretty soon you need to find somewhere to go. You need to, you know, go live off somebody else. So he had called me from work and asked me to come home so that we could talk about it. And when I got home, about 11 or 12, and John was already drunk and nodding out, because that's one thing that I couldn't stand about him, is that he would always nod out, and he's burnt my furniture on the floor. So anyways, he slept on the couch that night. I slept in the bed. I woke up the next morning. My keys are gone. I always leave my purse next to my bed. I always take my purse everywhere I go. The keys were gone. I got a phone call about 11 from an officer stating that John Hayden was in the hospital, that he had totaled my car. So I called down to the hospital, and John just acted like everything would be all right, that he totaled my car.
So what you're saying is he had driven your car before. There's no question about that. Is that right?
Yes, but he did not have an extra set of keys.
But he had driven your car before, with your permission?
Not with my permission. I would get up in the morning and he would take it.
Well, then what you have to do is you change the locks and you put him out of your house.
That's too much.
Shh. You change the locks, you put him out of your house if he's stealing your car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
I just use, I don't sell.
And later today,
for her receipts that day, there were 18 meals that there were no drinks charged on.
She said she forgot.
Right, but 180 times she didn't forget to take her tips home.
Right.
She forgot to charge for sodas.
She's just lazy.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bree Berry says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Now there is something that you're going to tell me that would suggest that you had an agreement with her with regard to a new car. So why don't you tell me about that?
After the car was totaled, we agreed that if she was able to get a new car, which she had no job except for about 2 or 3 weeks.
That's a lie.
So
it doesn't matter if I work or not.
Miss Berry, what part of don't speak don't you understand?
When
I'm
you're,
sorry.
When you're on welfare, you can barely...
Oh, my...
I'm not asking you what she did. I'm asking you what your agreement was.
You can barely make your rent anyway. If it wasn't for me co-signing, she could have never got the car to begin with.
My mama?
Miss Berry, if you open your mouth again, I'm going to dismiss your claim.
Okay.
You don't want that, do you?
No.
And I'm serious, you know. I don't say things and then take it back. Do you understand?
I understand.
Well, I want you to tell me the conversation that you had with Miss Berry, sir, with regard to your co-signing a loan for her.
I said, you put down the money you have as a down payment, and then I'll put down what I have, and if they let it go through with both of us being, with me being the co-signer, then you will have your car, and you will go from there.
Did she own the Civic free and clear?
I do not know.
As far as you know, she wasn't making payments because according to you, Miss Berry was on welfare. She could hardly make the rent.
Exactly.
So she wasn't making car payments. So what you're telling me is she took whatever little money she had, and you put in money. And how much money did you put in?
Probably $100.
And you put in $100, and then you co-signed a loan for her so that she could buy a new used car.
Yes.
And how much was the loan for?
About $8,000.
So what you're telling me is because you totaled her car, you obligated her to pay $8,000 for a vehicle to do whatever she had to do with it. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Then tell me what you're telling me, Mr. Hayden. I'm listening.
I would have been more than happy to stay there with her and be, and help her make her car payments, but she cheated on me. When I called her before I came home because I couldn't get a hold of her one day, and she said, well, an ex-boyfriend of mine spent the night tonight, and I don't want you to come here trying to cause any problems. Granted, this is where I was living, paying bills, giving her money. I make about $500 or $600 a week, and, I just would give her money.
If you had, sir, $500 or $600 a week, why don't you get your own car?
Because I don't have a license.
So, Mr. Hayden, so you took her car and drove her car without a license?
I didn't know that at the time. I have an $80 reinstatement fee to pay, which I'm going through now.
Mr. Hayden, you got more stories than Damon Runyon. The fact that you tell me that I gave her $100 towards the car, did he give you $100 towards the car?
ma'am.
No, of course he didn't.
Oh, you're right.
I couldn't even pay.
Of course he didn't.
I had to
Give you
pay
shh. What year car was this?
A 93.
Do you have the blue book value of it?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Would you like to see all the evidence or just that?
I'd like to see whatever you have, Miss Berry.
And I don't live in Section 8.
You move people in and out all the time.
Oh, goodness.
Ooh, this looks like some bad accident. What did you hit?
A telephone pole. And, she didn't call to see if I was okay. She called to see if her car was okay.
That should have told you something,
Yeah,
Mr.
it
Hayden.
did.
Should have.
Yeah, she's self-centered, and karma will get her.
Car was more important than you were.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the way it's always been with, that's what her psychiatrist tells her.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today.
So you look at that face and you see what?
I see charming, sweet, lovely Amanda.
But when you look at that face, you say she's a thief.
Not looking at the face, but looking at the proof, I believe she's running a little scam on me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bree Berry says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Mr. Hayden, let me tell you something. I don't find necessarily that the plaintiff's behavior is appropriate. I am assuming that you are now involved with somebody else?
Yes, ma'am. I was drug use.
No, listen to me. I assume at least in part it was because of somebody else. Part of it may be because of his continued drug use, according to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever. That is not a testament to your good judgment.
It's a bad judgment I made.
No, very bad. And I don't care whether you're exercising bad judgment if you're the only one involved, but you have a 5-year-old child. And you don't move somebody into your house for 1 hour who you claim is getting his methadone, but using in addition to that.
That's why I got rid of him.
Just a second. That's not true, madam, because according to you, after he came out of the hospital, you allowed him to move back into your home for a month. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And you don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old. You understand me?
Yes.
Good.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
More than her.
Okay.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
That may be, sir, but you still owe her $2,500 for the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500.
Parties are excused.
Step back.
You may step
Bird,
out.
he can have his water later, please.
John Hayden is a good con artist.
I could really care less.
Anybody that John owes money to,
She's wrong.
you should take him on the Judge Judy show.
Bree's a liar.
So you can get your money also.
This is over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McGinnis versus Carter. Step forward, please.
Restaurant owner Michael McGinnis is suing his former employee, 20-year-old student Amanda Carter, for stealing 180 sodas.
Mr. McGinnis, you own a restaurant, and the defendant was an employee of yours. She worked as a waitress. Your complaint is rather unique, sir. It is your claim that while she was employed by you, when she wrote out checks, she did not charge customers for sodas. According to you, based upon your calculations, approximately 180 sodas were not charged because you believe that it's impossible for people to have ordered that many meals without ordering a drink. And therefore, you claim that Ms. Carter stole from you and you want her to reimburse you in the amount of $315, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you start to work for Mr. McGinnis, Ms. Carter?
The beginning of December.
And how long did you work for him?
I worked for him for 4 months.
What kind of restaurant is it?
It's a sports bar.
Is this your first job as a waitress?
No, it's not.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
All right. So, Mr. McGinnis, tell me what makes you think that Ms. Carter stole from you.
My wife and I, Your Honor, went to a food show. We returned from the food show, and my wife checked the receipts. And for her receipts that day, there were 18 meals that there were no drinks charged on.
Okay.
So the day before that, there were no drinks charged that day. But our policy is all meals, you charge drinks. I asked Amanda, why were there no drinks charged on the meals? And her reply was, I forgot.
She forgot to charge them?
She forgot to charge them.
Okay.
But the only thing that the server can get to themselves are sodas, chips and salsa. Everything else they have to order through the screen. But I just can't believe, Your Honor, that individuals are choking down cheeseburgers and nachos and burritos without drinking anything.
Well, she already told you. She said she forgot.
She forgot to charge.
Yeah, that's what she said. She said she forgot.
Right. But 180 times, she didn't forget to take her tips home. She didn't forget to pick up her check.
Right.
She forgot to charge for sodas time after time.
When you do a check, how is the bill generated?
It's generated without the drink.
So the cost of the food itself comes off a computer?
Yes.
And then the server has to take an additional step before they add up the bill and add on 4 drinks,
Yes.
and then you total it?
Yes, Your Honor.
So she said to you, I forgot.
Yes.
And she's just lazy. Well, what do you think she was doing? You think she was serving these drinks and drinking them all herself?
No, Your Honor. I believe that she was serving the drinks and possibly telling the patron that she was buying the drinks for them in order to get a better tip.
That's a possibility. It's also a possibility she forgot, right?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
It's also, well, it's a possibility. It's just as possible as the scenario that you proposed, that she told all these 18 people on one day, I'm not charging you for drinks, you can add it to my tip, right?
Yes.
It's just as possible as that. You would prefer that I believe she's a thief.
Yes, I believe so.
So you look at that face and you see what?
I see charming, sweet, lovely
Yeah.
Amanda, very personable.
No, I'm asking you, but when you look at that face, you say she's a thief.
Well, not looking at the face, but looking at the proof, I believe she's running a little scam on me.
You didn't charge for the drinks, Amanda. How come you didn't charge for the drinks?
I didn't charge for the drinks because they simply weren't ordered. The bar area is first when you come into the restaurant, and many people came into the bar and bought their beer and their mixed drinks and such and purchased them from the bartenders and then made their way into the dining area where there are TVs where people like to come in and watch sports.
All right, but it's also possible, Amanda, that occasionally you let slip by.
Oh, yeah,
served drinks
definitely.
and didn't put it on the bill, right?
Yeah.
So that's a possibility.
Very big possibility, yes.
Do you ever tell people, listen, I'm not going to charge you for the sodas, so you could add it to my tip?
No, I've never done that.
Now, I can understand. You said to me, Amanda served those drinks, and she got the money for it and pocketed the money, and therefore she's a thief. But you're not saying that. You're saying that you choose to believe that instead of being forgetful, stupid, you know, she's a criminal, a thief. She stole money from you. And I don't buy that, Mr. McGinnis. I think that that's a very nasty thing to think about. Are you on medication?
Am I on my medication?
Are you on any medication, sir? I'm wondering why you've got this grin on your face that seemed plastered onto your face. Case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may on the calendar in the matter of Schwartfeger versus Day. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Schwartfeger?
That's correct.
How old are you, sir?
22.
Bert, I want you to pay careful attention. We're going to go over this scorecard so that you know who the players are in this case.
Gotcha.
Because I have a feeling it's going to be interesting. Who is this young lady?
That is my girlfriend, Sarah Buckley.
What does she have to do with this case?
She is a witness to the harassment, the vandalism to my vehicle, and she's also known the defendant and his daughters for about 5 to 6 years.
How long have you been his girlfriend?
Since November.
So a short-term girlfriend?
Yes.
Mr. Day, these are your 2 daughters?
That's correct.
Your name is?
Samantha.
How old are you, Samantha?
17.
And your name?
Kathleen.
How old are you, Kathleen?
22.
Kathleen, why don't you stand up next to your dad for a minute? Because we're going to get this whole scenario down here. Kathleen, you used to be his girlfriend, is that right?
Yes.
For how long were you his girlfriend?
Almost 4 years.
You have children with him?
2.
How old are your 2 children?
One just turned 3 and one's about 18 months.
Did you live together for a period of time?
Yeah.
For how long?
About 3 of those 4 years.
And how old were you when you started to live with him?
18.
Now you can sit down.
Thank you.
I may come back to you, but right now you can sit. This is what your lawsuit's about, William. According to you, you were being a good Samaritan. And at some point, you took in Mr. Day's younger daughter into your home because you say she was having some trouble with her dad.
Both parents, Your Honor.
Both parents?
Yes.
Now, at the time that you took her into your house, were you still living with Kathleen?
No, I wasn't.
So Kathleen wasn't living with you anymore with your 2 children. She had left you. You had parted ways.
Right.
But Samantha came to live with you, and at that time, Samantha was 16.
That's right.
Mr. Day didn't like that.
Not at all, ma'am.
You didn't like what happened with your first daughter,
That's correct.
and you for sure didn't like what happened with your second daughter.
That's very correct.
So what did you do, Mr. Day?
Well, Mr. Shortfigure hit Samantha in the mouth.
After she was living with him?
Yes.
Okay, let's stop there for a moment. What date did your daughter leave your home?
April 13th.
Of 2003?
Yes. It wasn't my home she was still with her mother at that time.
You and her mother are separated?
Yes.
Anyway, this is what your lawsuit is about, William. The lawsuit says that Mr. Day filed false charges against you for child endangerment, protective orders, causing you to have to hire an attorney, legal fees, and everything that he said about you was false, and you want to be compensated to the tune of $1,954.
That's correct.
Mr. Day, just for good measure, says, well, he wants some money, too, because you caused him to lose work and attorney's fees because he had to hire an attorney in order to get certain orders reinstated. He wants some money. I think most of what he wants is satisfaction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, William, tell me about when Kathleen left your house with your 2 children.
We were living together until December of 2002, I believe.
And how old were your children at that point?
The one was 3 months, and the other one was a little over 2 years old. Or, I'm sorry, she had not turned 2 yet.
And why did she leave?
We were having problems in our relationship. We've had an on-off relationship for the last 4.5 to 5 years, so...
It was during the odd periods that you had these children?
Yeah.
Was it an amicable breakup?
Pretty much.
And you continue to see the children?
Yes, on a regular basis.
And you continue to support the children?
That's right. I pay child support every week.
For both children?
That's right.
Okay. And where did Kathleen go when she left?
Actually, she stayed in the apartment that we shared.
And you left?
That's right.
So far, is that correct, Kathleen?
No.
Well, why don't you come up here and tell me what happened? Because this is all very important as far as Mr. Day's state of mind when he filed his complaints. When did you and William separate?
December of 2002.
Under what circumstances?
He was sleeping with my sister.
And how did you find that out, Kathleen?
I found notes.
Did you keep the notes?
My mom has them right now.
You get along with your mother?
Yeah.
Should have brought the notes to court.
I know, she won't give them to me. She said it's an embarrassment to our children.
What did the notes say? First of all, who wrote the notes?
He did.
Remember what they said?
It said Samantha down the side. It said sexy, amazing, mind-blowing, awesome, naughty, terrific, hot, and a dream come true.
Did you confront William with the note?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said they wrote it as a joke, together.
And when was that?
About 2 weeks before Christmas, December 2002.
You remember that conversation, William?
Yes, I do.
So you told Kathleen, the mother of your 2 children, that the note that you wrote that talked about sexy, naughty, etc., with regard to her sister, her 16-year-old sister, were just joking around.
Well, I write a lot of poetry. And
Joking around?
Yeah.
That's what you told her?
Yeah, I said we wrote it together. Yes.
Oh. Shh, please. You left.
I left for the day, but I stayed in the apartment. I asked him to leave.
And did he leave?
He left after a few days.
And that was in December?
That's correct.
When did Samantha come to live with you, sir?
In April of 2003.
And where were you living at the time?
I just got an apartment, and I had an extra bedroom. So I figured, you know.
How did Samantha know that you had an extra bedroom?
Well, we stayed in contact. Kathleen and I weren't talking at the time, so I used Samantha as a mediator to, you know, see my children and to make sure that they were doing okay.
You said you saw your children regularly, so what do you mean you needed a mediator?
Well, at first, the visitation wasn't every weekend like it is now. Like I said, Kathleen and I weren't on speaking terms at that time.
You weren't on speaking terms because she believed that you were having intimate relations with a 16-year-old sister. That a fair statement?
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You made 2 babies with one of his children, and then his daughter finds out that you're messing around with a 16-year-old sister. The 2 sisters. You know, like you live in Utah.
And later today,
You were together. You went on vacations together. You slept together. Intimately involved with each other
Right.
for all that time.
Right.
Get a life, sir.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Joe Schwartfager says his ex-girlfriend's father, Warren Day, owes for attorney fees and harassment. Warren says after William broke up with Kathleen, he had an affair with her 16-year-old sister.
Now tell me what Mr. Day did with regard to his 16-year-old daughter moving in with you.
Nothing at first. Samantha and Mr. Day weren't on speaking terms when it first happened.
She was living with her mother.
That's right, and she was having problems with her mother. She was, you know, living in and out of her friend's house, you know, running away from her house, not going to school, stuff like
Between
that.
December and April, did you see Samantha?
We met up a couple times.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
How many times would you estimate you saw Samantha?
About once a week, maybe.
Could it have been twice a week?
It wasn't like everyday basis that she was over at where I was at, but...
I didn't say every day,
Well-
William. You said once a week. And what I said to you is, could it have been twice a week?
It might have been a couple weeks that she came over more than once, yes.
And when she would come over, would she stay for an hour or two?
She'd stay for a couple hours.
And what would you do when she came over?
We'd hang out with the kids, talk about when the next time I get to see them, you know, where we were going to meet to get the kids and everything else, so...
When did Mr. Day file the first of his protective orders?
In July.
You have a copy of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it.
This paper is also the ruling after the
Just
case.
a second. So he filed a protective order indicating that in July you hit Samantha in the mouth.
That's right.
July 2003, Samantha. Were you living with William at the time?
Yes.
Did he hit you in the mouth?
Yes.
Under what circumstances?
I came home and him and his friends had been drinking and we got into an argument. At that time, we went into the bedroom. He took me into the bedroom. His friends stayed in the other room and one thing led to another. He actually picked me up, threw me into the table, and that's how I busted my lip open.
So he didn't hit you in the mouth. He picked you up and threw you into a table, which caused you to hurt your lip. And what did you do in July when he did that to you?
Well, we kept fighting. He actually left. I called my friends to come get me because he took my keys and threw them in the dumpster. And he came back and he was being very rude to my friends, and then I left. And then 2 days later, I think, is when they actually filed the protection order.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living with Joe, but I was staying with my friend Stephanie after we got in an argument.
So you were living with him?
Yes.
What kind of an apartment did he have?
It was a 2-bedroom apartment.
Who else lived there?
Just me and him.
Did you have your own bedroom?
No.
Did you share the bedroom with him?
Yes.
For how long?
Ever since we moved in. We actually got the apartment together. He didn't have it when we were together.
You went to court in August of 2003. Do you remember going to court in August of 2003? Yes. Did the judge ask you any questions?
Yes.
Why did you lie to the judge?
Because I thought that I was in love and I was scared. He told me what to say and I said what he said to say.
Had you gone back to him at the time?
We were on a restraining order, so we couldn't see each other, but yeah, we were still together.
Were you speaking to him?
Not during the protection order.
Did you tell your father that you were going to not tell the truth when the judge asked you questions?
Yes.
What did he say?
Not much. He told me I better tell the truth.
Is that right, sir?
That is correct, ma'am.
When your 16-year-old daughter got to court, she didn't tell the truth. Is that right?
That's correct.
And this, William, is what you're really suing over, this case that was dismissed.
Yeah, that's part of the lawsuit, yes.
Tell me what the other part is.
In February, he filed another protective order against me. Samantha had moved out in late October, and I didn't understand why he was...
So she came back to you after this original protective order, and she moved out again in late October?
That's right. She moved back into my house probably about a month after the case, and then she quit her job, stopped going to school. And those were, you know, I told her if she was going to live with me, she had to keep her job, go to school. And then later on, my car got vandalized.
Who do you think vandalized your car, sir?
Samantha. We do have audio tapes that were gone over by the county attorney.
Don't tell me what audio tapes were gone over by anybody else, sir. That's hearsay.
Okay.
Do you have any witness to Samantha vandalizing your car?
Samantha's older sister, Kathleen, she was the one that actually told me that it was Samantha that vandalized
Is that right?
my car.
No.
What did you say to him?
I said it wasn't my brother, and it wasn't my sister.
Well, I don't know.
There's
what
a lot
you
of people that hate you, so.
Yeah. I can think of 3 right there. Maybe 4. William, I'm going to tell you a word that you probably don't know. Interestingly enough, Officer Byrd knows this word, because when I say the word, he's going to understand, as will a lot of other people, because I'm going to explain the word to you. The word, William, is chutzpah. Do you know what chutzpah means, Byrd?
Sure.
Chutzpah means nerve. You got a lot of nerve to put on a suit and tie, bring your girlfriend into a court to sue this man after you made 2 babies with one of his children irresponsibly. Now, you're only partially responsible for that, but you're half responsible for that. And then his daughter finds out that you're messing around with her 16-year-old sister, and she leaves you. Or you leave. She tells you to leave. And then you invite her 16-year-old sister to move into your house, the 2 sisters, you know, like you live in Utah. And then you have the chutzpah to sue him as a parent for getting angry with you because his daughter tells him, not only am I sleeping with him, but he picked me up, he got angry when he was drinking, threw me against the table, and split my lip.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Joe Schwartfager says his ex-girlfriend's father, Warren Day, owes for attorney fees and harassment. Warren says after William broke up with Kathleen, he had an affair with her 16-year-old sister.
You have a daughter, sir?
Yes, I got 2 daughters.
All right. You have 2 daughters?
3.
3?
Yes.
Who's the third?
My oldest daughter, she's 7, but she's not by the day.
And how old are you, 22?
That's right.
You better get a lock for it.
That's already been fixed out.
William, I don't want to look at you for another second. Your case is dismissed. Mr. Day, have you gotten the satisfaction that you wanted?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't need a counterclaim, do you?
No, I don't really know.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's been hard. It's been hard for me not to do something else besides go to court. It really has.
I was just trying to get the attorney bills that Mr. Day has racked up on my behalf, you know, cleared up.
This man has been like a dingleberry on my butt.
It didn't destroy any credibility. It's another day.
He doesn't think about other people's feelings, how he hurt me, how he hurt her, and how he's probably going to hurt Sarah, too.
She was like a little sister to me the whole time.
You could talk the panties off a nun.
The girl that's with him right now, Sarah Buckley,
Is my best friend.
and used to live in my house as my 3rd, like, adopted daughter.
So he's on the 3rd one now.
Yeah.
We're actually a lot closer than we were, and we just really hate him now. Everybody makes mistakes. Yeah, this is her freebie. If she does it again, then it's not.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Nunez versus Channing. Step forward.
Cell phone salesman Ruben Nunez is suing his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old medical technician Tamara Channing, for crashing his SUV.
How old are you, Mr. Nunez?
32.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm in sales.
How long have you been working in sales?
10 years, but I've been with my current company for 7.
Do you have family?
Yes, I do.
What kind of family do you have?
I am a single parent of a little boy and a little girl.
They live with you?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so you're busy.
I'm currently busy. Yes, I'm always
So you
busy.
have a full-time job?
Yes.
And you take care of 2 kids?
Yes.
The reason I'm asking you these questions, sir, is I'm wondering why you're here. Because your complaint says that 2 years ago you were dating the defendant. She asked if she could borrow your car. She borrowed your car 2 years ago and had an accident. So my question is to myself, do you have nothing else to do in your life? In the 2 years that passed between the crashing of your truck that she had borrowed and now, why didn't you pursue your claim?
Well, Your Honor, she was unemployed, for one. She was going to school, and she just graduated currently in November of 2003.
Yeah?
And she barely got a full-time in February of this year.
Okay. Now, Miss Channing, you borrowed his truck. He had been driving it for a while. You crashed. You had an accident. The accident was your fault. There was some damage to the other car. The other car driver was paid with money that he initially wrote out, but you paid him back that money. So she paid you back, right?
Yes.
This money you said she didn't pay you back. That was to fix the truck. Now, this was in December of 2002
Right.
that you crashed the car. You weren't living together, were you?
No, we weren't.
But you were dating.
Right.
Now, after December of 2002, did you continue to date?
Yes.
Was your dating relationship a heavy dating relationship?
Yes,
were
it
you heavily
was.
involved?
Yes, we were. We were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Were you intimately involved?
Yes.
And when did that relationship end?
It ended in January of this year.
So between December of 2002 and January of 2004, you were together. You went on vacations together.
Right.
You slept together.
Right.
Intimately involved with each other
Right.
for all that time.
Right.
Get a life, sir. Get a life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me. If somebody owes you money, you pursue that claim immediately. If the relationship hadn't terminated in 2004, you wouldn't be here today. Is that right?
Incorrect.
No, you would not be here today. If the relationship proceeded and you married the defendant, which I assume was your intention and her intention if you were boyfriend and girlfriend, that it was going to go into a formalized relationship. And if that had happened, we wouldn't be here today. And the only reason you're here today, sir, is because you're annoyed with her, relationship's over. You say, now I want the money from 2 years ago when you had an accident with my car and it cost me $900 to fix it. Get a life, Mr. Nunez.
This is case number 468 on the calendar in the matter of Hanson versus Carney.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have a seat.
Ms. Hanson, it is your claim that Miss Carney assaulted you at a party. It was a Halloween party and it was being held at some firehouse?
Yes,
A firehouse. Adults were there, young people were there, your parents were there?
Yes.
Were your parents there?
No.
Oh, okay. Now, Miss Carney, your defense is that, yes, you did, in fact, hit her, but she started it.
Yes.
So since you acknowledge that there was a physical altercation, I'm going to let you tell me what happened.
Okay. I had walked it since the moment I walked in. The first time I saw her, she had called me when I walked by.
I assume you knew her from before?
Yes.
From when before?
A long time ago, like 6 years ago, probably.
Had you seen her in those 6 years?
I don't think so.
What time did you get to this Halloween party?
I have no idea. Probably 9 or so, I don't know.
Was this person with you?
Yes.
What time did you get to the party?
It was at 9.
Okay. So you say you passed her by and she called you a name. Keep going.
Okay, and so we kind of ignored it and we were sitting at a table.
Not we. I don't want to hear about the we.
Sorry. Okay.
She didn't call anybody else a name. She called you a name.
Yes. Okay, and then we passed by before we went in the bathroom and she...
Who's we?
Me and 2 other friends. And then by the time we got into the bathroom, we had had altercation. She called me...
No. Listen to me very carefully. And don't look down there. You look here.
Okay.
She called you a name. You ignored it. Sat down. You and your friends went to the bathroom. As you were going to the bathroom, did she say something else to you?
Well, actually, we were going to the other room, which the bathroom is in a hallway, and we're going through the hallway to a different room. And she had said some other things. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Directed to you?
Yes.
Okay, and you kept walking. Keep going.
And then a few minutes later, we went into the bathroom, and her friend were in there. And
okay, so when you got into the bathroom, she was there. Who had to use the restroom?
We went in to do our makeup, actually.
So nobody had to use the restroom?
No. No.
And when you got into the restroom, the plaintiff was there. She was there with anyone else?
With her friend, I believe.
That would be you. Go ahead.
Okay, and so
don't look down. I'm not interested in looking down. I'm interested in looking here.
Okay. And so we had an altercation. She was saying
don't tell me altercation. Altercation is a conclusion. I want you to tell me what happened when you got to the bathroom.
Okay.
She was there already.
Yes.
What was she doing when you walked in?
Standing there. I don't know exactly what she went in the bathroom to do.
What was she doing when you walked in?
She was just standing there. She wasn't doing anything.
She was standing in the bathroom?
Yes, she was standing
near
in the
sink?
Yeah, well, it's kind of small, so yeah, near the sink, I guess you could say.
And what happened?
Okay, and I walked in there and she said, oh, you must have not heard me. And I said, yeah, I did hear you. And then we just got into this argument about my ex-boyfriend.
No. You must have not heard me.
Okay.
Yes, I heard you. She said, you said, come on.
She was saying how my boyfriend had liked her and wanted her and I was nothing to him, blah, 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 blah.
You mean you're talking about 6 years ago?
Exactly, yes, 6 years ago.
Go ahead.
And so I just said, you could have him if you want him. He's not mine anymore, blah, blah, blah. And then she was just on and on about how much he wanted her, blah, blah, blah. So it made me mad. So I threw my water at her out of my cup. And so she started to come towards me. I hit her. She pulled onto my hair. And then her dad came into the bathroom and grabbed me out and said, you can either go out in cuffs or you can go out yourself. So I said, okay, I'm going out myself. Went outside with Whitney. And she came running out and pushed me and said, oh, it's all right, Danielle, I got her, and ran back into the bathroom. And so when we left, we went down to our car, and her dad walked by and said, oh, just remember, little girl, this isn't over yet. So I was like, okay. And they drove by about probably 10 minutes later, right before we were leaving, and they were calling me and stuff when they were driving by. So
that has nothing to do with the assault.
Okay.
You
well,
assaulted her.
Happened. I told you.
You assaulted her.
Okay.
What part didn't you understand that you assaulted her? You can't throw water on her. Okay. That's an assault. And let's go through it very slowly. Remember, you don't have to have a good memory if you tell the truth. You threw water on her, and then what happened?
And then she came at me. So
then she came towards you.
Okay.
And then you hit her,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Where did you hit her?
Her face, I think.
You can't do that.
Okay.
Is that what happened?
No, it's not what happened at all.
So I've just heard a whitewashed version of what happened?
Yes.
Why don't you tell me what happened?
Okay.
This is bad enough.
Yeah. It was about 10:30 at night on October 25th, and I had not seen her that whole night. I didn't know she was there. Me and Ashley went into the bathroom to go to the bathroom, and about 30 seconds to a minute later, she comes in with 2 of her friends, and I say, hi, Brenda. She goes, why are you saying hi to me? I said, because I was just trying to be nice. She replies, why, because you my boyfriend? And I said, no, I didn't have sex with your boyfriend. She comments about my chin, insults me, so I say something about her hair. I walk towards the restroom, turn my face, and she hits me in my eye. And I have pictures to prove it.
What about the water? Didn't she throw water?
She didn't throw water on me. She hit me once. I kneeled down,
And I come back up, and I pulled her hair. She hit me again in the same eye. I let go of her hair, I grab my face, and my friend Ashley pulls me into the stall. And I hear my dad's voice. He comes in to the bathroom, and I hear him. So I open the stall, and he says 3 times to her, "You need to get out of the bathroom. You need to leave the bathroom." And as they are leaving the bathroom, her friend turns around, throws her drink on my face, into my eye.
Which friend?
I don't remember.
Which friend?
Don't remember.
Which friend?
Which friend it was?
Don't speak!
Okay.
Which friend?
It was our friend Brianna.
That was.
I love it when it. I gave you an opportunity to speak first, right? Everybody else was quiet.
Yes.
If I had let you answer the question, you would have said nobody threw a drink at her. That's why I asked her. Because then I got an honest answer.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Danielle Hansen says Brenda Carney assaulted her in the restroom during a Halloween party. Brenda claims that Danielle was the aggressor.
Okay. You have medical bills?
Yes.
I'd like to see them, please. What do you do for a living, Miss Carney?
I'm a waitress.
Where?
At Buffalo Hill Cafe in Georgetown.
How long have you been there?
About 6 years, 5 or 6 years.
Who do you live with?
I live with my mom.
Anybody else?
My dad and my brothers.
How come you didn't have her arrested? I would have had her arrested.
Your Honor, I'm Steve Hampson. I'm her dad. We did call the police. The first 2 sheriffs that did show up interviewed my daughter and had to go to the hotel to get the defendant out of the bar. They took her statement. A 3rd sheriff arrived and basically took over the whole situation. We felt it was kind of biased because the sheriff knew the family.
I assumed somebody knew a family.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
I assumed somebody knew a family.
No.
I assumed somebody called somebody who knew a family.
We didn't know any of the sheriffs that were there that night.
I didn't say you.
Okay, I'm just letting you know we had no idea who they were. So.
I didn't say you.
Okay.
Family, I said.
Or my family.
No, I don't believe that at all. Because with this kind of injury, I just found out the story. I asked you what happened. You acknowledged that you assaulted her. I assume you said the same thing to the sheriff who came. I assume you did because you told me that you assaulted her. So I don't understand if you assaulted her and caused her physical injury, why you weren't arrested unless somebody knew something. Unless somebody knew somebody. Certainly pleased that you're working, my darling. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I wanted to go to the bathroom. I needed to go to the bathroom. I turned my head, and she hit me.
She was very upset, holding her face. You know, it was pretty obvious that she had been assaulted.
If someone just says, "Hi, how are you?" Well, give me the reason to punch him in the face.
I didn't do anything to her.
She had just said that she wished wasn't wearing the same costume as her.
We were wearing the same costume. I think she was just a little mad because I looked better in mine.
Not sound biased, but yes, my daughter did look a lot better in the costume.
Get over small stuff.
Well, I'll never hit anyone again. That's for sure.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Morris versus Morones, step forward, please.
19-year-old Pura Morris is suing her co-worker, Felicia Morones, for borrowing her Toyota Camry and wrecking it.
Miss Morris, the defendant borrowed your car. Yes. You were co-workers?
Yes.
And she totaled the car. You want her to pay for the car because while you had liability insurance on the car, you didn't have collision insurance on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And the defendant says that the accident is not her fault, and therefore she's not responsible for the damage. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. When did you borrow her car?
In the first couple of weeks of November.
When did you borrow your car?
November 8th.
See, when you lose property that you pay for, you remember the date that you lose it.
Right.
When you don't pay for property, you don't even remember the date that you lost the property.
Well,
November 8th. Tell me under what circumstances she borrowed the car.
It was about 1:30, and she was getting off a couple hours before I did, and she wanted...
Where do you work?
Taco Bell as my second job. She got off about 1:30, and I was supposed to close to be getting off at 4, and she had asked to borrow the car. And I really didn't want to give it to her at first.
I don't care whether you wanted to give it to her or not. I want to know what you said to her and what she said to you.
She asked to borrow the car. She said she was going to go check and see who was at a club, and I told her she could not borrow my car if she was going to be drinking. She said, okay, well, then I'll just go home. And when I got off, she was supposed to come back up there and bring the car to me. And under them circumstances, she could borrow the car. I didn't want her to walk home at 1:30 in the morning. It's a bad part of town.
Well, if you hadn't lent her the car, how did you intend to get home?
well, I have my husband to pick me up. He would come pick me up if I called him. She offered.
Just answer my question. When you didn't borrow her car,
right.
How did you get home at 1:30 in the morning?
My manager, or like I would call somebody to come, pick me up.
At 1:30 in the morning?
Yes.
Like who?
My kid's dad or the manager. She would clock out and take me home if I needed.
Go ahead.
She had kept asking to borrow the car, and so finally I said, all right, well, just pick me up when it's over.
What kind of car did you have?
A 98 Toyota Camry.
And this Taco Bell job is your second job?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your first job?
I work at a doctor's office.
What does your husband do?
He's a medical assistant.
Saving up some money?
Kind of. We just bought a house, so it's pretty much, we saved up to buy the house, and then we found out that it went through, and
how much money had you saved, Miss Morris?
A little over $2,000.
How long did it take you?
Month and a half, about 2 months.
Do you work a lot?
Yes, ma'am.
What about your husband? Does he work a lot?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
With my husband.
What does he do for a living?
He makes printing ink.
Okay. So you borrowed her car?
She offered her car.
I don't care whether she offered it or not. You borrowed her car. How old are you?
32.
You borrowed her car. You have a problem? You want me to give you the definition of borrow?
No, I know the definition.
Good. You borrowed her car.
Okay.
And what happened?
Well, I was at work and I was getting off early.
I heard that already. You were getting off early and you wanted to go home. And you didn't want to call your manager.
Well, I didn't want to go home. I told her I wanted to go out.
You wanted to go out?
Yes.
How old are your children?
At home with their father.
How old are they, I said?
How old? From 16 to 5.
So you wanted to go out to a club. For what?
To have a couple of drinks.
With whom?
With just myself and whoever friends I saw there.
What about going home to your husband and children?
Well, I mean, occasionally I'll like go, out with friends and we'll, go out, drink or whatever. So.
You borrowed did you steal the car?
No, I did not.
Look, all right, let's try to make this simple, even for you. Did you buy the car?
No.
Did you steal the car?
No.
Did you have possession of the car?
Yes.
Didn't steal it, and you didn't buy it.
So
then you borrowed it.
Okay.
She didn't lose it. She didn't sell it. She loaned it to you.
Right.
You borrowed it from her. Now do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. So tell me what happened to the car.
Okay, I was coming from the club because they were already closed. So I was just in the parking lot, so I just got back in the car, and then I took off, and then I was on the way to go home to change my clothes.
Change your clothes to do what?
Because I had on my Taco Bell uniform.
So what were you changing into?
I was going to go change into some jeans and a T-shirt, and then because she didn't have to get off till 4. And then when I was driving, a truck is coming towards my way on the other side. Mm-hmm. So then he decides to get in my lane, and I'm thinking he's going to move, and then he doesn't. So it's either I have a head-on collision, or what I did is I swerved, and when I swerved, there was like a ditch there with a little like boulder thing, and I like hit the boulder thing, and like when I did, it had like I could hear it like scrape the whole bottom of the car, and I went into like a little ditch where there was trees and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
did you call the police?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because the car started back up after the airbags deployed.
You were just in almost a terrible accident. You heard that the car was damaged by hitting the underside of the car. A truck caused that damage, according to you. Truck caused that damage because it was traveling the wrong way on a highway. It was in your lane.
Not on a highway.
On a street.
On a street, yes.
It was going the wrong way in your lane on a street. So traveling in a very hazardous way, causing your accident. Why didn't you call the police?
Well,
How about because I didn't have a license?
Right.
How about that?
Because I didn't have a license.
That would be an answer. Why did you take possession of her car without...
She was aware of
I'm
that.
speaking. Don't tell me what she was aware of. Why did a 32-year-old woman take possession of a car, drive a car, without a license? Why?
Just because it said.
Well, then you pay for it. Can I get the book value of this car, please? 1998 Toyota...
Camry.
Camry.
She willingly handed the keys over to me, though.
You're a fool. Let me tell you all the things that you said to me today that suggest to me that you're a fool. First, that you had no responsibility because she offered you the car. Second, that you think that I believe that someone else caused this accident, despite the fact that you took the car, went to a club 1:30 in the morning, instead of going home after a shift of work to be with your husband, because you used that word loosely, because you at first said the father of my children would come and pick me up. Then you said husband. So somebody is home with your kids while you're out clubbing. That makes you a fool. The next thing that you say is a fool is that she's responsible because she handed over the keys to you. That makes you a fool. Only a fool takes a car to drive it. I'm speaking on a public street without a license, who's 32 years old, who has a child as old as 16. If your child who was 16 who doesn't have a license takes a car and drives it on the street, can wind up in jail. That's where you should have been. At the price.
1998 Camry.
Yeah, good condition.
Private party, $5,100.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Yeah, it's case number 570 in the matter of delay versus Peterson.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Ms. DeLay, you and the defendant were friends throughout high school, and no quicker way to destroy a friendship very often than to become roommates in college. Two of you decided to share an apartment together. You signed a lease to a 2-bedroom apartment. It didn't work out, and you both moved out.
Correct.
You paid the transfer fee, allowing each of you to move into a 1-bedroom apartment. You want Ms. Peterson to be responsible for half of that transfer fee, plus part of a cable bill that you say was in your name.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson says that your behavior and things that went on in the apartment made it impossible to stay there. She says that you wanted to move out, so you pay the transfer fee. And as far as the cable is concerned, she says you put a password on there that precluded her from using the internet and cable. She has no intention of paying it. She's counterclaiming for some nonsense. She wants you to return all the rent she paid because she didn't have a good time. Well, that's about what it is. So that's ridiculous. But I'll let you explain it to me in a very short period of time.
Okay.
Okay. When did you move into the apartment?
We signed the lease July 8th, and I moved in July 8th.
And Ms. Peterson moved in 2 months later?
Correct.
Okay. When did you sign the transfer agreement?
I don't have the exact date, but it was end of January. I moved into my new apartment, I believe, end of January, early February.
All right. So that Ms. Peterson lived there September, October, November, December. And when did you move out?
I moved out on the 16th of January.
Now, you're going to explain to me, Ms. Peterson, why you are not responsible for 1/2 of the transfer fee that permitted the two of you to go your separate ways. You were both unhappy, correct?
Yes.
Both unhappy. You explain to me why you should not be responsible for half that transfer fee.
Okay. Back in July, in the summer, Veronica expressed to me that she wanted me to find a new roommate to cover her half of the lease. And I went forward with that, and I found a roommate.
In July?
In July, before we were even living together, because of the cable internet bill, because I said I wasn't going to pay it. Because I didn't need it. I don't watch TV, and I had friends who were moving upstairs who said I could use their internet or I could go down to the common room where they offer it for free. So I found a roommate, and in the end of August, the first weekend before school, I spoke to Veronica, and she said, "Oh, I'm not moving out anymore." So.
And in September, you stayed?
I did. Because I had
Fine.
no choice.
Fine, you stayed.
Right.
But things were not good.
No. In November, I moved most of my things upstairs to my friend's apartment, and I was hardly ever at the apartment. If I was, I locked myself in my room because I didn't feel comfortable with her and her boyfriend being there all the time. I was scared, and I felt harassed and threatened by her.
Listen to me. Then you should be very happy that she said, let's sign off on this lease, and it'll cost us each $600, and then we're out of each other's hair.
Well, at that point, I was so frustrated with everything I had been put through that...
Get unfrustrated. Get unfrustrated and grow up. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good situation.
Well, can I say something?
Yeah, say whatever you want to say.
My mom and my father and I all discussed commuting because we didn't want to give Veronica any more money. I had paid for her boyfriend to sleep over multiple times. I was never there.
Listen to me.
It was like having a third roommate, though.
I don't care. Listen, your parents care if you're unhappy.
Right.
Your parents care. Courts don't care if you're unhappy. Courts don't care if you don't like her boyfriend sleeping over. They don't care.
Well, there's a clause in the lease that says that no person can stay more than 14 nights, and I kept track on a calendar, and it exceeded the 14 nights, and we got a possible eviction notice from it.
Your Honor,
Just a second.
Okay.
All of that suggests to me that you should be very happy to find a new place all by yourself.
I wasn't even living there, though, at that point.
That's your choice.
Right.
That's your choice. What do you want?
I wanted to say something on Elizabeth's defense, Your Honor.
That?
I'm her mother, and on December 16th, my husband and I went into the peninsula. We hooked up the cable and the TV and the DVD player. And,
because Veronica would no longer
just
let
a
me use
second.
hers.
Right. Elizabeth wasn't able to use it. We went downstairs and we met with the Peninsula management, and we wanted Veronica to sign off the lease. That's what we needed, so we wouldn't be responsible for the apartment any longer. And what we were going to do was have Elizabeth commute. So there was no reason for us to pay a transfer fee. But Veronica is the one that wanted to move out. She wanted her own apartment. And yes, we did want that too.
Your daughter wasn't staying there. She wasn't staying there because she was unhappy. Either she breaks the lease or she signs a transfer agreement. Those are the options.
But that was the option for Veronica, too. She could have broken the lease.
Just to say, she could have. This is a much better thing to do, rather than breaking the lease, to sign an orderly transfer agreement so that the landlord doesn't say, I'm stuck because they broke the lease. What I want to do is I want to move into another place. This is what it's going to cost. Otherwise, I'm on the hook for the entire year lease from January until the following June.
But I didn't trust that Veronica would do anything. She hadn't done it in the past.
I don't care what you trusted. Right now, it's a fait accompli. It's done. Your daughter is responsible for half the transfer fee on the apartment. There's no issue with regard to that. The only issue that I have for you, Ms. DeLea, is did you have a password or any device that precluded the defendant from using the internet and or cable?
I had a password.
Just a second. That's either a yes or a no.
On the internet, yes.
Did she say to you at any point, I'm not interested in cable?
She told me in November.
That's either a yes or a no.
In November, yes.
What month's cable do you think she's responsible for half of?
September through January.
She's not.
Okay.
She's not responsible for any of those.
Your Honor, she disconnected my cable in December, and even though I was still paying for it, prevented me from watching it.
I don't care.
There has to be a contract. There has to be an agreement.
Your Honor, I have
Listen to me very carefully.
Yes, ma'am.
There has to be a contract and an agreement.
I have one.
For
I
whom?
have an email, her writing that she would be responsible for half of all the cable and internet and electric bills.
Just a second. Did you tell me that you put a password so she could not use the internet?
There was a password on it originally, but... Excuse me.
I'm asking your daughter a question. Sit. You too.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Veronica DeLay says her former roommate, Elizabeth Peterson, owes for cable bills and an apartment transfer fee. Elizabeth is countersuing for the return of rent and harassment.
I'm asking whether she told you she wasn't going to use the internet, and you put a password on there that precluded her from tapping into the internet in your apartment.
I was required to put a password on the internet from the beginning, so yes, there was a password.
Did she have it?
No, ma'am.
Then she's not responsible for it.
Okay.
But she's responsible for half the transfer fee.
I just have...
Put your hand down.
Okay.
Stop being a baby. That's what you're responsible for. Just tell me what half the transfer fee is.
Half the transfer is $625.
Fine. You owe her $625 for that. Now, you want to give me your counterclaim in 30 seconds or less?
I have a breakdown.
I'm not interested in your breakdown. Yeah, you have 30 seconds or less to tell me about your counterclaim, which is nonsense.
Well, my countersuit was because Veronica was using drugs in the apartment, and I'm on a full scholarship at my school, and that really, I could have lost my scholarship if she got caught at the apartment because we both signed the lease.
But you didn't.
No, we didn't. But one of the security guards approached me saying that he smelled.
You can't tell me anything that a security guard told you.
I have a report from him.
You can't tell me anything that anybody else said to you or wrote out in a statement that is hearsay. Do you have a police report?
I talked to the lieutenant of the police station because the security guard had him come down.
That's hearsay.
Well, I called and they didn't have a report. I was very surprised.
Oh, listen, you happy now with your new roommates?
Yes, but I'm unhappy that my scholarship was in jeopardy. Well, and it was like having a third roommate there at the apartment.
My dear, did you lose your scholarship?
No.
Good. You owe her $625 transfer fee and your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She demanded that I had to ask her permission for every visitor.
But I asked just in case I had a test the next day because the walls are paper thin, you can hear everything through them.
We had to divide the cabinets in the kitchen.
I asked for one cabinet to put all my snacks in because I eat all organic.
I don't know. She just went crazy, pretty much.
She just doesn't care, so I'm going to live with people who aren't as selfish.
Title: The Dispute Over the Heavy Bike. Adil and Shabir had been inseparable since childhood. They grew up together, sharing their dreams, frustrations, and countless adventures. They were opposites in many ways. Adil was impulsive and adventurous, while Shabir was cautious and level-headed. Yet, their differences never got in the way of their deep friendship. As they got older, their lives started to diverge. Adil, with his passion for bikes, dreamed of owning a heavy-duty motorcycle. He envisioned the wind rushing past him as he cruised through the streets, feeling the raw power beneath him. Shabir, on the other hand, had always been practical. He found comfort in his reliable car, believing that a heavy bike was more trouble than it was worth. One day, after months of saving and searching, Adil finally found the perfect bike. It was a custom-built 1,000 cubic centimeter sports bike, sleek and powerful, a machine that could turn heads and break speed records. He couldn't contain his excitement and immediately purchased it. When Adil invited Shabir to check out the bike, Shabir was skeptical, but agreed to come along. Adil, wearing a wide grin, led Shabir to his garage where the bike was parked. It gleamed in the soft light, the chrome and black metal shining like something out of a dream. "Check it out, Shabir. This is it. The bike I've been talking about for months," Adil said, his voice filled with pride. Shabir looked at the bike for a long moment, his face unreadable. "It's impressive, I'll give you that. But Adil, this is a lot more than just a bike. You're really going to ride something that powerful?" Adil chuckled. "Yeah. This is my dream. It's got everything: speed, style, and power. It's not just a bike, it's a statement. I've worked hard for this, Shabir." Shabir didn't share the same excitement. "I don't know, man. It's too much. You don't even need a bike like this. It's dangerous and reckless. What if something happens to you?" Adil frowned, his excitement slowly turning into frustration. "What's your problem?" "It's my life, my money. I'm doing this for me, not for anyone else." Shabir's voice grew serious. "That's just it, Adil. I get that it's your decision, but I care about you. You're talking about riding a beast that could easily get you into trouble. It's not worth the risk. The two stood in tense silence for a moment, the once light-hearted conversation now heavy with disagreement. You're just being paranoid, Adil finally snapped. This bike is fine. I know what I'm doing. It's not like I'm going to race through the streets at full speed. You're acting like I'm going to die the moment I start it. Shabir shook his head. I'm not saying that, but you know as well as I do how dangerous bikes can be. You're a good rider, but one wrong move, one slip up, and your life could change forever. Why risk it? Adil's patience had worn thin. I've been riding bikes for years, Shabir. I know my limits. This bike is no different than any other bike I've had. Shabir's voice softened but remained firm. It's different, Adil. It's a lot more powerful, and it's not just about the ride, it's about safety. You can't just treat it like any other bike. I don't want to see you hurt because of something reckless. Adil turned away, walking toward the bike, his anger bubbling up. I'm not asking for your approval, Shabir. I've made my decision. You don't get to tell me what to do with my life. The words stung, and Shabir's expression hardened. I'm just trying to look out for you. I don't want to see you end up in the hospital, or worse. Maybe you don't trust me, Adil said, his voice colder now. Maybe you think I'm not responsible enough, but I know what I'm doing. If you can't accept that, then maybe we shouldn't talk about this anymore. The tension between them was palpable. Shabir felt hurt, but he couldn't back down from his concern. I'm not trying to control you, Adil. I just don't want to lose my friend over something so unnecessary. Adil clenched his fists, his frustration turning to anger. You don't get it, Shabir. This is my dream, and you're trying to ruin it. I've worked for this, and now I finally have it. I don't need you judging me. Without another word, Adil stormed out of the garage, leaving Shabir standing there, feeling helpless. For the next few days, they didn't speak. The silence between them felt like a heavy weight. Shabir was torn, he wanted to support his friend, but he couldn't shake his worry about the bike's dangers. Adil, on the other hand, felt misunderstood, his excitement soured by Shabir's caution. A week later, Adil called Shabir. His voice was quieter, more reflective. Shabir, we need to talk. They met at their usual spot, the small cafe, where they'd spent countless hours chatting and laughing. Adil sat down, looking more serious than usual. I've been thinking, Adil started, and maybe I was too harsh. I know you're just worried about me, and I appreciate that. But I've been riding bikes for so long. I feel like this is something I'm ready for. Shabir nodded slowly. I get it, Adil. I really do. I don't want to see you hurt. You're my best friend, and it scares me to think of you getting hurt on that bike. Adil smiled, his earlier anger melting away. I know, and I'm sorry I didn't listen. I don't want to lose our friendship over something like this. But I need you to trust me, Shabir. I'm being careful. I promise. Shabir looked at his friend for a long time, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. He finally sighed, his shoulders relaxing. I still think you're taking a big risk, but I trust you. Just promise me you'll be careful. You're not invincible. Adil's grin returned. I'll be careful, I swear. And maybe one day, you'll come for a ride with me. You might even like it. Shabir shook his head with a small laugh. Not a chance. But I'll be here to support you, no matter what. As they shared a laugh, the tension between them dissipated. They may never see eye to eye on the bike, but they had something much stronger, a friendship built on care, respect, and understanding. And in the end, that was worth more than any heavy bike.